Beyond the Waves is a Hail Hail Media production. It may contain swear words and adult situations may be discussed. If you're in the company of underage Tims, turn off the show now and listen back later. If you'd like to get in touch with the show, email us at beyondthewaves67@gmail.com. You can also reach us on Twitter at BTW Celtic Show, or check us out on Facebook and join our group at Beyond the Waves. Hail, hail, and keep the faith.
Anyway, there's a song, as I said, off the next album, and as I said, it's the last one I'm going to spring on you here that you won't know, so. I did a song earlier on about Bloody Sunday, and this is a song from an eyewitness point of view, which talks about trying to escape the bullets. And he said it was like running, when you're trying to run away from something in a dream and you just can't escape. And he likened it to running uphill, and the song hence was called Running Uphill. So here we go. How many times must we do this to ourselves? We've been on our knees a million times, asking for your help. But of all the answers that I don't understand, like I did not draw the firing line, but I still know where to stand. Nobody told me, must have heard it on the news. People with nothing, they had everything to lose. It's like running uphill. It's like running uphill. In the corner of the graveyard, a mother kneels to pray, and the memory of her son that slowly fades away. In this part of the graveyard, the sun no longer shines. There's no fences or barbed wire, but still she's doing time until she gets the answers to the questions that she asks. It's hard to build a future when you're haunted by the past. It's like running uphill. It's like running uphill. And as the bodies hit the pavements, the world's seen what you've done. As the bodies hit the pavements, somebody's singing that we shall overcome. It's like running uphill. It's like running uphill. Now everybody gathered here on Central Drive, are marching in the shadows of the truth you try to hide. But every step that's taken is a breaking of your law. The injustice never added up to the murder that we saw. And time don't make no difference to the people that still care. For thousands we march the streets still knowing that you're there. It's like running uphill. It's like running uphill. It's like running uphill. It's like running uphill. Thank you.
Welcome to the Beyond the Waves Celtic Football Show. My name is Graham Wilson. And the Hamden curse continues. Just can't seem to come up with the will or the focus or the execution, whatever it is. What is it about that place? Neil Lennon in his post-match comments, I think, was appropriately honest and direct. But one thing I did take notice of, he did say the trouble is over. And I would have to disagree. Hang on a second. Oh, yeah. Harper, that's for you. The extremely talented David Harper from the Homeboys show. For those who listen to the Homeboys faithfully, religiously, you'll know the context there. You can catch them on Monday nights at 7:30. It's a live call-in show. Just a bit of crack, and the boys get together and talk about the previous weekend and all other sort of nonsense. It's great stuff. Check it out. But we are the Beyond the Waves Celtic Football Show, and we are coming to you live after the game, as we typically do, to provide a forum for you, the fans, the listeners, to vent, to share your comments, to tell us what your thoughts are on the team, the day, the performance, whatever it is, the news. We're not without things to talk about today. So, at any rate, add us as a contact on Skype, at Beyond the Waves, all one word, and Skype in. It's a free call. Go to Skype.com. You can download it onto your laptop or your handheld mobile device. It doesn't take up much space, and it's completely free. So, with that being said, let's say hello to the Rev. He's joining us from Perth Amboy, as always. Hail, Rev.
Hello, I am here.
You're here. I'm
here.
And fair play to you, sir. I know that you're particularly gutted about the result today. Let's go over it. I mean, as I alluded to, Hamden just seems to be our nemesis, for whatever reason, and it doesn't even matter the opponent that we're going up against. Neil Lennon comes out with, and I mentioned this several weeks ago, Neil Lennon is going to fluctuate in between a 3-5-2 and a 4-3-3 from now until the Juventus game. He just is. This is preparation for Juventus every single game. And today was no different, and we saw the product of it. We've had mixed results, especially with the 3-5-2. The game against Hibs, that was just absolutely atrocious. The 2-0 defeat that we took away at Easter Road. We tried to make adjustments mid-game, but it never really clicked. I felt that Joe Ledley's absence really hurt us there, but we seem to have morphed back into a 4-3-3, especially starting off the game, and we've had some success with it, especially over the past 2 to 3 results. But today was completely different. It was a different context. This is not an SPL tie where we're going up against a side that is just trying to protect its standing, protect its place in the table. This is a team that's coming out and they have absolutely nothing to lose. They're going to go after it, and that's exactly what we saw from St. Mirren. 4-3-3, you need a distributor in the midfield who can link up play. Full stop. If you have 3 holders like we did in the middle of the park today, it's going to take one of them to step up and to create, to open up opportunities, with Wanyama being that more central of the role. And with us trying to build from the back, he was always going to be absolutely vital to that. And to be honest with you, I thought Victor Wanyama might have had his worst game as a Celtic player in quite some time. He came substituted off, and without the assumption that he took a knock of some sort, I think it was fully merited, considering the effect that he was having on the game, or lack thereof, really. What we saw from Samaras, I've been very harsh on Samaras in the past, but what we saw was today exactly why he got the people on his back, the haters, the detractors of Samaras. He gets an out ball to run onto, tries to cut it back, and just completely loses possession, either through getting tackled. His first instinct today was to do something just asinine, just absolutely silly. Instead of doing the simple thing, making the simple pass, it was trying to back heel, it was trying to flick the ball past players, and it just never really worked. I thought Hooper, really until his goal, was absolutely anonymous. I think his first touch was 15 to 20 minutes in. And and we're going to talk about Hooper at length because obviously that's a big talking point at the moment with where is he going? Is he going? How much is he going for? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's all absolute nonsense. But he was anonymous. He took his goal exceptionally well, I thought. I mean, it was phenomenal. Timed his run perfectly. It looked as though we seemed to have found some sort of cohesion there. It seemed after St. Mirren had their goal, 12 minutes in, it seemed like Neil Lennon, again, starts off with a 4-3-3, wants to make a bit of an adjustment, morphed back into more of a Christmas tree where Sammy and Lasad would have a more withdrawn role and Gary Hooper would be the tip of the spear, so to speak. And it seemed as though we started to click as the close of the first half came upon us, and then the opening in the second half. It seemed as though we had really, our ears pinned back and so on and so forth. Lasad, for me, he was, it wasn't his best game either. It just seemed as though he was caught between two minds for most of the game. Scott Brown, for me, is the only player on the park that gets pass marks. Neil Lennon mentioned after the game that Gary Hooper would probably be the only player that would get pass marks. I mean, I guess I could agree with that based on the fact that he did score a goal, but then again, so was Charlie McGrew. Charlie McGrew scored a goal, and I certainly wouldn't give him pass marks, and neither would anyone, I wouldn't think. Gary Hooper, his first touch was absolutely abysmal today. No question about it. Completely unable to control the ball as he does when he is on form, to set the ball in his path and create opportunities for himself. Granted, he did have a couple of chances in the first half that he really should have put away, one of them going just off of the crossbar. It just seems as though that end of Hampden is just it's really harsh on him. I mean, think back to the League Cup final last year against Kilmarnock, and now this, and it was just tough. Now, those who want to detract from Izzy or sort of slag Izzy for his sort of defensive liabilities, I will hold my hands up today and say I completely agree with you. Izzy today, his service, and this has been a theme over the past several weeks, his service has been much, much better. Very much improved, but once again, we found with St. Mirren's first goal, he got caught, he got stuck up the pitch, couldn't track back. They had far too easy of a cross into the box. Seemed as though there was just zero communication between the goalkeeper and the back four, especially between Izzy and Charlie McGrew, and it's just too easy. Fair play to St. Mirren. I mean, when they got their chances, I mean, the two goals that they scored from open play were tremendous. They were absolutely phenomenal. Fair play to them. But we cannot make it that easy. I thought Izzy was a liability defensively in a couple of different situations. Their third goal, I wouldn't place the blame so much on Izzy, as it were. With that left-hand side there, you saw, it seemed as though, I think maybe Matthews was covering on the left-hand side. I was a little unclear as to whether or not it was Izagiri over on the left or Matthews, but whatever the case may be, you had Sammy over there on the left-hand side covering, and the St. Mirren player had the ball right at the top of the box, right at the elbow, and you had Matthews and Sammy both going towards that player. There's a complete lack of communication there. You've got to talk to each other. That's what Neil Lennon said. That's what Neil Lennon meant when he said a bunch of individuals out there not playing as a team. Talk to each other. Okay? You did a shampoo commercial. That's it. You didn't forget to speak English. Okay? Let's go smash some plates, and we'll move on to the next game. But I think Samuel was really at fault for that third goal. He leaves the player down at the byline, completely unmarked. To use an American sport analogy, if you leave a two-guard behind the three-point line with an open shot, sure enough, he's going to make the shot, and that's exactly what happened. You leave a St. Mirren winger with that much space on the outside, just outside the penalty area, and he swings the ball in, and then there's absolutely no fight to get to that ball. Ball watching. 100%. 100%. Joe Ledley made an attempt, but, I mean, there's just absolutely no attack to prevent that ball from coming into the box. Full stop. And, the St. Mirren player, again, just a fantastic finish. Lucas Zaluska, he is not Fraser Forster. And I think today really, once again, just illuminates how much Fraser Forster means to us. Because last week, I pointed out the fact that it would be a bit harsh on Zaluska to say, well, Forster would have saved that, and it was a deflection and so on. I don't think Fraser Forster would have let 3 goals in today. That's just my take on it. Zaluska, for me, I've never been comfortable with him, and he's just demonstrated it now. Yes, you can make the point that he's a backup keeper. He doesn't get a run of games to really build his confidence, to build his form, et cetera, et cetera. He's had 3 games now. He's been in training. He needs to be ready for this sort of thing. And after 3 games, if he can't provide more assuredness on the goal line, then it's just not good enough. Full stop. I thought the substitutions came on far too late. I thought they were the right ones to make, and fair play to Neil Lennon, for I thought getting the personnel right. Stokesy came on, and of course, whenever Stokesy seems to have this affliction that you get from Patty and maybe some others, where when they're substituted on and things go pear-shaped, then everybody sort of just piles on them. Listen, Stokesy comes on as a substitute and has to fill into the rhythm of the game that's already been built up by the 9 other outfield players. And when he comes on and he provides something so different, that's always going to be a tall order. Stokesy is not a Sammy, and he's not a Lasad, and it's very difficult to make that switch just like that. Created a couple of chances, wasn't able to finish. Lustig came on, which I was glad to see. Lustig for me is maybe our best player at the moment. Victor Wanyama, in my opinion, has had his head turned. If the mainstream media's objective was to unsettle this Celtic side in this last couple of weeks in the transfer window, congratulations, because they've succeeded. They've succeeded. I firmly believe, maybe not so much Hooper, but Wanyama had his head turned. Wanyama read a lot of the articles, Sir Alex Ferguson coming to Celtic Park, some of the valuations being bandied about. I think that all of the players are really distracted by this. They're distracted by Juventus. They're distracted by the transfer window rumors. You're seeing Chris Common's wife tweeting pictures of Gary Hooper like he's a hostage, like he's in a Save the Children campaign. April have a word with them. It's obvious that it's getting to the players. They're listening to this. It's a distraction. Plain and simple. And it's not as though Neil Lennon was whistling past the graveyard coming into this tie. All of his comments in the press were, look at the results down south. Look at what's happening in the cup competitions in England. And that could very well be us, and we need to be ready. Well, we weren't ready. A certain amount of the blame needs to go to Neil Lennon. He needs to make sure that these players are ready, both physically and mentally. But at the end of the day, it's up to the players when they take the pitch. That's it. Neil Lennon can't make Gary Hooper focus and really sharpen his first touch. Gary Hooper, he's been the focus of all of this attention this week. But Neil Lennon can't force Victor Wanyama, when he has possession on the break, to seek out a pass to a wide open Scott Brown wide right instead of letting a shot go from 25 yards out and slicing it 10 yards wide of the goal. I think Victor Wanyama trying way too hard. And let's be honest, Victor Wanyama has not made his name by doing the things that he was trying to do today. Victor Wanyama's made his name by being strong, by being a basher in the middle, by dispossessing the opposition, getting the ball, and being a safe hand at the till, if you will. Not from prodigious strikes from 25 yards out. And that's another example of what Neil Lennon's talking about when we had a team of individuals and not players. Now, Charlie Mulgrew. Charlie Mulgrew is getting beaten to hell right now on the steaming pile of diarrhea that's become Twitter. And I can't justify the amount of abuse he's getting. Did he have a bad day at the office? Absolutely. Absolutely. Was it acceptable? No. But we're talking about the Scotland Player of the Year from last year. And players have bad days. What was he doing at the corner of the box with his arm up like that? Who knows? Who knows? He knows he can't do that. He's not some daft laddie that's just filling in at center half for the first time in his career. He's made his bones at center half. And whatever it was, a rush to blood to the head, just a momentary lapse, instinct overcoming focus, who knows? But it was deadly. It was really what put the nail in the coffin, and his penalty miss. Now we have to ask ourselves, what is the deal with the penalty taking? Neil Lennon says in the press conference after the game he's sick of missing penalties. So why don't we get one player and just designate that to be the player to take the penalties and leave it at that? We have a track record, and this goes back 4 years, of putting somebody in, letting them take penalties until they miss, and then they come under like an unholy wrath of fire from everyone that they're rubbish and they're shite and all this and that. We've had everybody on the team bar the keeper taking penalties. Who's going to be the next one to take the penalties now? We going to have Izzy up on the penalty spot? Is he going to take penalty kicks? Kicking in the Rosette? This is not productive in terms of a long-term strategy. I mean, we barely ever get penalties. So why do we squander them? When Charlie Mulgrew took the penalty spot, it was like, you've got to be kidding. It's a joke. We need to designate one player who's going to do it, and maybe a backup. I like the choice of Scott Brown because if he's fit, he's on the park, and have them just designate an incredible amount of time at training to penalty kicks, and there's your man. So that I'm a little bit at a loss about. I want to hear your thoughts, the listeners. What's your take on this penalty taking situation? Yes, the players played as individuals. They were disjointed, soulless, all the words that Lenny talked about. But if Charlie Mulgrew makes that penalty, or whoever, Scott Brown steps up, takes the penalty, and makes it, it's a completely different complexion on the game. We're not talking this way. We're not highlighting the individual, detraction at the cost of the unit. It's a completely different context. It completely changes the tone of the game. And then to compound it with sacrificing the penalty, I mean that just put it away. Yes, the players acted as individuals, but after that, the context is we need to press. We need to press our asses off. I mean, we were essentially pressing right after we missed the penalty. I was like, oh shit, it's going to be one of these then. Especially Charlie Mulgrew. Charlie Mulgrew's thinking, I need to avenge that. How much did that have to play into him sacrificing the penalty? Who knows? But it's all over. But the trouble's not lost, because we're still in the Champions League. We're still in the Cup. We have Wraith Rovers coming up, where Gary Hooper undoubtedly will score 5 goals, and the league as well. So, Rev, your thoughts?
Well, I'm glad you did the tactical analysis more so, because I couldn't even watch that. I shut the game off after the third goal in. I was done. I don't even remember the last time that I shut a game off mid-game.
You're a terrible fan.
There's, like you said, there's really nobody, that deserves, passing marks. I mean, if you want to say Scott Brown, I guess you saw more of the game than I did then, so, maybe he did something to redeem himself.
What did you see from Scott Brown? Because I thought he was excellent, but what stood out to you? I
didn't see anything. Like, there was nothing that he did, while I was watching that caught my attention to say, okay, at least somebody's trying. I didn't really get that feeling from anybody. Defensively, he was his typical self, yeah. But I guess, if we're going to set the bar like that, where he played normally and everyone else was just crap, thus he's the best, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a fair point.
So, like, he was just being himself normally, and everyone else was just so poor that, it just made him look like a star. The strategy that they were going for, at least in the first half, with trying to kick, long balls, and, you could hear, I don't know what feed you had, but the Celtic TV feed, you could hear the wind, whipping around from the microphones, and it's like, and you're going to try to lump the ball up 30, 40 yards. Like, what good is that going to do? It's just, there was, a just complete breakdown and discombobulation of everything on everyone's part. I wasn't totally disappointed or worried when Mulgrew stepped up for the penalty kick. I figured him and Commons.
But I'm sorry to interrupt. But when you saw him step up, it's like, I mean, he's never taken penalties before, and he's like the last person that you'd expect to do that. I mean, certainly, didn't you? Were you confused at all, or was it more of like, okay, well, Charlie's stepping up, and we can always count on him, and he'll just boot the ball and burst the net?
That's what I was expecting. I'm like, I don't see what the difference is. I didn't play soccer my whole life, so that could be my own ignorance, but I don't see what the difference is between taking a, dead ball free kick from 25 yards or taking a dead ball penalty kick from 12 yards. Mm-hmm. I know it's more of a mental game and stuff like that, but you would think if you can hit it from distance, over people, over the wall, curve it, etc., why can't you do it from, a couple yards out?
Very simple. It's a fair question, but it's very simple. You hit it right on the head. It is mental. It's absolutely mental. It's confidence. The player standing at the spot. I mean, the goalkeeper has, statistically, they've said they have I believe it's a 13% chance of saving a penalty kick. So right from the bat, you have an 87% chance of scoring from there.
Right.
So you need to have confidence. You need to believe in that. You need to step up, and you need to have some sort of precedent to look to. I've done this in training. I've done this in games. Everybody counts on me because I can do it. Not, well, you're left. Everybody else has tried and
right.
been absolute shite with it, so don't you shit the bed either, or else we're going to slate you.
And I can't even say, like, it was a good save. It was a bad kick.
Oh, it was awful. You could have ran down from the stands and saved it.
Like, I would at least, give him the benefit of the doubt and be like, he made a great kick and it was just a great fucking save, and there's nothing you can do about that. Keeper guessed exactly perfectly right. It's just he might as well have just gone over to him, told him where he was going to kick it before he kicked it, and then just give it a tap.
Look, here's the deal. Like I said, in the opening, I'm not going to slate Charlie and call him out and disgrace and everything else. I mean, it's way over the top. He had a big game, no question about it. My take on it is, it was very unfair, I think, to have him step up and take that penalty. I'm not sure what the mindset is in terms of the taking of penalties, but it's not working. It hasn't worked for years, and it needs to drastically change. So from there, we asked Charlie Mulgrew to step up and take the penalty. He does. You have to assume he tried his best. He misses. And then with Charlie being Charlie, with that mentality, he presses. And he tries to avenge that mistake and sort of to bring himself back into the good graces. And that is going to lead to more bad things than good. What we needed at that time was composure. We had the run of play. At that point, we were controlling the game, and we needed to just continue doing that, controlling possession, trying to keep it on the floor, link up, and when we get behind, and then we start throwing the long balls toward Gary Hooper, who isn't even going to try and jump. Let's be honest.
He wanted the balls at his feet, but that wasn't going to happen because anytime in the midfield you tried to put 2-3 passes together, you had 2-3 St. Mirren players right up on you. No,
exactly.
They were flies on shit today. They were all over us.
Exactly, and that's an excellent point. When you're playing 4-3-3 like that, like I mentioned before, you need to have someone in that midfield who's going to distribute, and we didn't quite have that quintessential sort of profile, that box-to-box midfielder. You can call Victor Wanyama that all you want, but he's not. He doesn't have the vision. Yeah. He doesn't have the passing range, if you will. Like it's completely unfair to compare him to, but in the mold of like a Steven Gerrard or a Frank Lampard, a Wank Lampard. when you don't have that, it makes it incredibly difficult throughout the middle of the park. And to Sam Marin's credit, they closed down all the channels. You know, we're going to have more space open through those channels, and Sam Marin just clogged everything. And it wasn't even fair play to them. They got a goal up, and they continued to attack. You know, they just kept wave after wave coming at us. That's the way football should be played, and they're to be congratulated for that. You know, when the goal went in, it's like, great. Now they're going to park the bus, and it's going to be the same old deal. You know, we're going to get possession in their half, and, you know, it's going to be broken down, and hopefully we can get a goal from a corner and change the complexion of the game. No, they kept coming at us, and they're to be congratulated for it. They were 3-1 up, and they continued to attack. It could have been 4-1.
You know, I want to say, you know, fair play and good game and all that stuff, but you know what? This has happened too many times within the last couple of years where, I mean, I'm not going to be a bad sport, but
oh, go ahead.
I'm tired of congratulating all these other teams for beating us.
Yes.
Especially in these cup games,
exactly.
And, you know, these semifinals and quarterfinals.
Get them, Rev.
You know, yes, okay, you beat us. You know, Kilmarnock last year on the final, you beat us. You know,
get them, Rev.
It's you know, yeah, you played well, we played like shit, but you know what? I'm tired of saying, you know, good congratulations to you for beating us. That just pisses me off, you know. Call me selfish. I want a fucking treble. I want a domestic treble. I want to go for the 4, you know, if possible, but I want a domestic treble. I know I've only been around for, you know, less than a decade following Celtic, and there's people that have been around their whole lives, and it took them how many years to see one, you know, 11, 12 years ago to finally see a treble. It was only the second treble. I'm fucking selfish. I want a treble. There's no reason why we can't do it.
No, yeah, and to that point, I mean, that brings up a good point as well. This really highlights the fact that trebles, and I said this last year, and I'm it's starting to sink in. You know, I'm trying to put it into context. I'm trying to have a bit more levity. I'm trying not to get on here and just start screaming, and then people just laugh at me. But this is why trebles are so hard, and this is why what makes trebles so special. You know, granted, we don't have the now deceased Huns in the league anymore, so it's certainly going to be considerably easier. I mean, last year it was ridiculously easy. This year was no different. Perhaps next year won't be any different. But these are opportunities, like you said. I mean, it's still hard. These teams show up on the day, and they're hungry. Mm-hmm. And we're not. We're not.
Let me ask you this. Yes or no? If we don't win the Scottish Cup, is this year a failure?
You know, it's a good question because you really put me on the spot with it, and I like that, but it's such an absolute comment talking about failure. I mean, failure is so black and white. I mean, so many things are dependent on it. You know, the context behind it. I mean, there's different ways you can lose. You know, today was unique, I think, in the past couple of losses that we've had in Hampden where we were just outplayed, you know, full stop for the entire 90 minutes. I mean, I guess in a certain sense you could say the same about Kilmarnock, the League Cup final last year. But they did just as much to win the game as we did to lose. And now I realize I'm ducking your question. And I don't want to cop out and not answer it. You know, I mean, it depends on the Champions League also.
Okay, or not a failure, but just...
I'm going to be disappointed as hell.
Right, but I mean from a sporting standpoint, obviously, you know, for the fans won't be happy, but I mean from a not a business standpoint, but a sporting standpoint, you know, maybe somewhere between not as strong as failure, but worse than you know, a disappointment. You know, there's no, like the way I see it, like I don't think if we don't win at least the double, that we have not progressed than we did, you know, from where we were last year. I guess, yes, you can say, you know,
it's a letdown.
The Champions League, you know, that's separate but kind of equal. It's a side story. I'm talking just about how we do domestically, where we don't have the team formerly known as Rangers to contend with. So there's no reason why. I mean, we're up 12 points I think on the league.
Yeah.
So that's not to sound like what's his name, Jelivic, but the league's done for all intents and purposes. So that means we have to one up last year.
Yeah, no, I get your point. I think in a very real sense we already have, given not just our qualification for the Champions League, but the fact that we have it all to play for in 2 weeks' time, a little over 2 weeks' time against Juventus. That's a good question to pose to the listeners, and the Skype lines are wide open. So for the listeners, get in touch. Add us as a contact if you already haven't, and get in touch. Let us know. We're here for you, in spite of what some folks like to say. I know Deco likes to call me Hugh Keevans. Listen, the bottom line for Deco is if he wants to call me, 2.5 hours into the show, and we have plenty of time prior, and I need to go because my wife is going to boot my balls in, and I need to cut him off for that, then that's just tough shit. But that's a great question. If we don't win the Cup, which we're far from it. I mean, we're just in the 5th round, right, coming up against Wraith Rovers, and no game is a gimme, as today has indicated, and what we're seeing down south. But yeah, that's a fantastic question. I'm not 100. Let's assume that Juventus, we don't make it through, and for whatever. It just so depends on the context. I'd be very disappointed, yes. Would it be a failure? I don't know. It wouldn't. Here's the way I can frame it. It wouldn't be as great as I think this season is going to. I think this season's going to be, amongst the greatest, perhaps ever. Mm-hmm. And I fancy our chances throughout the Champions League. I mean, we know the players are going to show up for that. That's really the question. What are the games? We can look at the schedule and be like, what games are the players going to show up for? And they're going to show up for the Champions League games. And when they do show up, the team is magic. I would have hoped and expected the team was going to show up today, but that was completely incorrect. If we lost the Cup, especially if we made it to the final, got to Hampden once again, and lost at Hampden, I would look back on the season and be more disappointed based on my expectations. I'll answer it that way. Would it be a failure? I wouldn't go so far as labeling it that, but it would fall far short of expectations.
I want, like you said, you can see this as being one of the best seasons ever, and I agree. And I want something to show for it, because when you look back, in the next 125 years, unless there's something, unfortunately, probably none of us are going to be here around that time. So
speak for yourself.
the memories and everything are going to be by and far gone. So I would like something on paper, something physical to kind of be the exclamation point and be like, you know what? It was a good season. It was one of the greatest seasons, and here's the proof.
Yeah, fair point. I'm with you there.
And side note, I don't like, everyone, it's kind of like a defense mechanism. We saw it last year too. It's like, oh, it's the Diddy Cup. It doesn't matter.
True.
No, don't give me that, because in 2009, when that's all we won was the League Cup, I celebrated like it was everything because it was something, So that's I guess, and I'm not gonna really fault anybody for that, because I get that, you try to save a little face and it's a defense mechanism, but no, I'm not gonna play that route. You take what you get.
Very well said, Rev. Very well said. You were ready. You were ready for today. You are bringing it. I love it.
Yep.
Listen, the Rev's ready. I'm ready. Give us a Skype. Let us know what you think. There's really nothing more you can say about today. Danny Lennon, it's a credit to him for having his team ready to play. They were hungry. They see silverware. They see an opportunity. And, our players need to realize that this is another medal that they're not going to be able to put into their drawer. And that's a big reason why they're at Celtic. Make no mistake about it. Playing in front of 60,000 rabid, adoring, passionate fans every week or thereabouts, and having the opportunity to win multiple medals every year and to play in the Champions League. So when you don't show up for a semifinal at the National Stadium, then you really got to look yourself in the mirror and you got to ask yourself some questions. And the players need to stop. They need to stop reading the newspaper. They need to stop believing all of this transfer hype. Let's talk about the transfer hype, because I think it had a big, big impact on today.
Good.
I really do. You saw Chris Common's wife sending out tweets, about her trying to convince Gary Hooper's partner to talk him into staying at Celtic. So
I missed all that, so you have to.
Well, Lisa Haig on Twitter, who's Chris Common's partner, was sending out tweets of Gary Hooper saying, please, April, have a word with him, and things of that ilk.
To keep him here.
Mm-hmm. So, it's obvious that it's an issue. It's obvious that they're not ignoring that and just sort of focusing on what is really important, which is the next game that they're playing and getting themselves ready to play in that next game.
Right.
They're having their heads turned. Everybody's having their heads turned. Chris Commons isn't even being rumored. Chris Commons is rumored to be going to Nando's tomorrow night. That's the big rumor with Chris Commons, and yet his partner is sending out tweets about it. That's
everybody's having their heads turned.
Brendan, turn your speakers down. Yeah, just a word of advice. If you're calling in, please do us a favor and turn your speakers on Spreaker. Or actually, just close out of Spreaker, because you can hear us on Skype. You're live on the show. And then you can open up Spreaker right after the show, and it makes life much, much more pleasant. We're now
we
joined.
Don't like the sound of our own voices.
No, I do. I really don't. I hate it. We're now joined by Brendan. Brendan, thanks so much for calling in. You're live on the Beyond the Waves Celtic Football Show. What'd you make of today?
Very disappointing. I'm afraid I agree with the Rev. If we don't win the Scottish Cup in the league, we haven't moved on from last year.
Yep, fair point. Especially, and I think that, and let me ask you this: I think that Hampden now has become another issue where it really wasn't on our radar screen. The sort of bugaboo. It used to be winning away in Europe. Then, in the first half of this season, it was winning at home. Now I think this is a theme. Now I think this is a challenge that's put in front of us. They used to say Neil Lennon couldn't win the big games. Then they said Neil Lennon couldn't win the small games. But I think this is the next challenge. Can Celtic overcome this Hampden curse? What about Hampden is getting in our way? My theory, all this transfer window talk has completely gotten in everybody's head. It was completely visible when you saw the type of play and the mentality, some of the decision making from Victor Wanyama. I think that he saw Alex Ferguson at Celtic Park on Tuesday, and he's had his head turned. What do you think about that?
Well, I thought Victor, probably one of his worst games today. I thought that lad Newson that played in midfield, I thought he got the better of him in most of the challenges.
No question.
It was non-existent. Really.
Yep, no question. And the point that I made earlier was Victor Wanyama has made his name. He's built his reputation on doing the simple things extremely well, winning the headers, being a physical presence in the middle of the park, dispossessing opposition players. Today it looked like he was trying to stand out on his own. It was clear with the 25-yard shot that he took with a wide open Scott Brown out wide, that can set up one of our strikers. That's very out of character for him. Typically, I'd like to see our midfielders let it fly from outside the box more often, but in a different context. When we're going up against a packed 18-yard box, and we don't have sort of any other option, I'd love to see us take a bit more chances, but in that situation and several others, I mean, it seemed as though he was trying to make passes that really weren't there, trying to go for the hero pass instead of just the simple 5-yard pass and taking care and keeping the ball and possession.
Well, I'm a big Victor fan, but I thought today, like you just said, he was trying to play maybe to the crowd, or somebody said Alex Ferguson was in the crowd.
Well, he was there on Tuesday, and obviously it was the night before Sean Fallon's funeral, and all the rumors were bandied about that Ferguson was there to take a look at Wanyama, and all the talk about Wanyama being valued at this or that, or maybe being looked at from Arsenal. I think that's become a distraction for him.
Yeah, I think you're right, but the thing is, I think today showed that he's going to be a top player. He's going to bring Celtic a lot of money, but he's still got a long way to be the finished article.
Absolutely.
Now, what you want is guys like him have got to take these games when we're not doing well. They've got to take him by the scruff of the neck, and they've got to be the difference. And the difference being, the minute we get into the final at the end of the game.
No question.
That never happened today. There was nobody there that wanted to take the game by the scruff of the neck. Their keeper never made one save.
I know, it's unbelievable.
Not one save. He was smoking a cigar at the back.
He had a wee lawn chair out there, just like, I think it might rain. No,
unbelievable.
You're absolutely right.
This Hamden thing. I thought today, after 5 or 10 minutes, it took me back to when Lenny first took over against Ross County, and to me, that game today was exactly the same as that. I felt after 10 minutes, we ain't going to win this. We're not getting into the final today.
It really did have that.
It proved to be correct.
It did have that vibe. I would have to agree with you. I did get that sort of reflection, and it led me to believe that we needed a major tactical adjustment in order to try and cope and adjust. And I think that Neil Lennon tried to have Lasad and Samaras rather in a more withdrawn role, and it did seem to click there right towards the end of the first half, and then even in the opening of the second half. But big events change the complex of the game. I know it sounds obvious to say, but from a mental standpoint, Charlie Mulgrew puts that goal in, and the mentality of the players is going to be completely different. So rather than trying to press to avenge the mistakes, it's, okay, we have the lead, let's push on from here. And that completely... Go ahead.
Graham, we've got three forwards on there, Lasard, Samaras and Hooper, and we've got a centre-half taking a penalty. Now, whenever I played football as a youngster, your centre forward always took your penalties. It didn't matter whether he missed 1 or 2 over a season. He would normally bury 9 out of 10.
Exactly.
Why have we got a centre half taking penalties?
Exactly. I have no idea. I mean, it's been this mentality for the past 5 years, essentially 4 to 5 years, where it's just hot potato. It's we'll have one player take the penalties until he misses, then we'll slag him, and then we'll send somebody else in there, and it sets the precedent that nobody wants to take penalties now. I mean, if you miss a penalty, look at what happened with Charlie Mulgrew. Who do you think the next person's going to step up and take the penalties? You think they're going to want to take penalties? Absolutely not. You need to have a long-term vision and focus. Like you said, if it's going to be a center forward, have the center forward be the designated player to take the penalties. Hooper, Stokes. I wouldn't mind Scott Brown because he's going to play if he's fit. And just have them focus on taking penalties and develop that part of the game rather than, right, we'll just go to whoever's left that hasn't missed. And you essentially ruin players.
Well, yeah, it's now become a confidence thing. Nobody wants to take a penalty in case they miss.
Yeah, I'd be hard-pressed to imagine who the next person's going to be. I wouldn't expect it to be Charlie Mulgrew again. But and it's no fault at all to Charlie, in my opinion. I don't understand why he was taking the penalty in the first place, but it certainly did affect him after that. It seemed like he was cruising the game prior to, and then after he was just chasing and pressing everything. It looked like he was going to pick up a yellow card, especially right after he gave up the penalty. I mean, it's a mentality thing. You're absolutely right.
He shouldn't have been put in that position in the first place. And as soon as he missed it, he was trying to make amends.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because obviously he wants the team to win. But the point is, you've got 3 centre forwards on there and guys in midfield who should be taking penalties ahead of a centre half. That's the bottom line.
Yeah, no question. Let me ask you this as well. Gary Hooper, for me, obviously he took his goal quite well. Neil Lennon, in his comments after the game, was quite complimentary of him. What did you make of his performance today? Because for me, first off, he was anonymous throughout the first 20 minutes of the game. I don't think he touched the ball even once. Now, fair play, Samaras had a lot of the ball out wide and seemed to just make a living out of losing possession. But for me, when he would get the ball, either at his feet, through the air, etc., I mean, his first touch was absolutely abysmal. When he did have the opportunities, he did absolutely nothing with it. So much talk about his valuation, and he's going to Norwich, or he's going to Spurs, or he's going here, or he's going there, and he doesn't want to sign a contract, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. For me, and there was a lot of debate. I want to hear your thoughts, because there was a lot of debate on this on Twitter this week about Gary Hooper could walk into the Spurs team. He's better than Defoe. He's better than Dempsey. I'm not kidding you. People actually said this on Twitter. For me, Gary Hooper, we know Gary Hooper. We identify Gary Hooper as scoring bucket loads of goals against Wraith Rovers, against Kilmarnock, against St. Johnson. But we don't necessarily think about Gary Hooper being a prolific goal scorer on a consistent level. He's a confident striker, and it's peaks and troughs, and that is absolutely deadly in the EPL. Imagine he goes to Spurs, and he has he takes a couple of good goals in his first couple of games, but then he has a run of 2-3 games where he doesn't score. I mean, he's going to go right to the back of the line.
Well, my point with Hooper is he's been good for Celtic, but Celtic's been good for him. Now, I think it was Mailey's boys on Twitter put today that his second touch was a tackle. Now, he's unproven in the EPL because he's never played there. He's come to Scotland, playing for Celtic, who normally play attacking football. Any centre forward worth the salt will always score goals because we have that much possession. Now, the only time you can judge Gary Hooper going into the EPL is when he actually plays there. Now, if he goes to Norwich, he's not going to score the goals he scores at Celtic because he's not going to have the chances.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, he's taken a lot of stick today, and I certainly don't want to represent him as a striker whose first touch is abysmal, because it's not on the whole. But
his second touch.
Well, I disagree completely with that comment. I'm not sure where it was, where his second touch today was a tackle. He didn't even chase after the ball to put in a tackle. It was first touch, and then he just sort of drops his head. And there's far too many of those types of performances from him that for my liking, to give him my blessing in terms of being a standout success when he goes to the EPL. The EPL is very unforgiving, especially for strikers. You are only as good as your last game. And if you have a run of poor performances, unless your name is Fernando Torres, you're going to fall to the back of the line. No question about it, especially when you have players like Adebayor, Jermaine Defoe, Clint Dempsey that are there, and they're banging in goals week after week consistently. You must be consistent, and Gary Hooper doesn't quite have that. Gary Hooper has flourished at Celtic. You put it, you nailed it, spot on. Gary Hooper's been good for Celtic, and Celtic has been good for Gary Hooper. I'm going to nick that because Gary Hooper is the best striker that we have. We have to rely on him. He knows, and this gets into this mentality. We have players on this team who know they are undroppable, and he knows it as well.
Well, I think Lenny was massaging his ego when he came out and said that it was only Hooper who got pass marks today.
I'd agree.
I think there's a little bit tongue-in-cheek. I think he's obviously going to do and say what he can to keep him there for Juventus game. Either way, he's going to be gone by the end of this month, or he's going to be gone in the summer. What we need to be doing now is lining somebody up to come in and obviously replace him.
Yeah. Who do you fancy, in terms of maybe somebody that we haven't brought in just yet? Who would you like to see us bring in? I mean, do you want to... There seems to be two minds. I think the more common mindset at this moment is just push on with the strategy that we've had lately, trying to find value in these obscure places, not spend a lot of money, look for value. And value doesn't always mean cheap, but a player who's going to exceed the amount that we're going to pay for them. Do you want to do that, or do you want to sort of break the bank and maybe go after a Charlie Austin type? I know we've been... Jan Miaupi came out and said that he's a target of ours. I think he's going to command, I would think, $5 to $6 million. I'm not comfortable spending that much money on a striker.
No, not for Celtic and for Scottish football. Charlie Austin, I don't know. I don't really know a lot about him, to be honest. If I'm honest, it's a tough one. I think it all depends where we want to go with the side there, Graham. If we look at to be successful in Scotland, then Hooper goes, what we've got in the books should be suffice regards to the league. Because okay, we haven't done too well at Ham the last couple of years, but overall league season, Celtic at the moment are going to win more games than anybody else. Now, if we do well against Juventus and we want to kick on Europe, then yeah, maybe we've got to lay some serious money down on the table.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. The close of the year. For me, it was never an issue. Gary Hooper was never leaving in this window. And what's interesting is Talk Sport will come out with a new article every week. If Spurs comes out and rubbishes any link that they have with Gary Hooper, it'll be, I guarantee you, 2 days later, Talk Sport, QPR, Harry Redknapp was seen at Celtic Park, and he's in for Gary Hooper. I mean, it's absolutely nonstop, and it's always rubbish, but people always believe it. And you always see the BBC and the Record and the Sun picking up and linking to those articles when there's never anything in it to begin with.
Yeah, but you're always going to get that, aren't you? While you've got Sevco down in the 3rd division, anything they can do to take a player away from Celtic Park, that's what they're going to do.
Yeah, you're right.
We know how it works.
You're right. Absolutely. Hey, Brendan, thanks so much for calling in, pal.
Not a problem. Speak to you again soon. Hell.
Yep. Cheers.
Cheers.
Brendan, get in touch. Good call. He agrees with you, Rev. It's a failure. Failure if we don't win the cup this year. I don't know. Failure is so sort of absolute. It's so like, I don't know. I'm gonna be just gutted, but I don't know.
No, it's definitely, it's going to be tough.
What I hope.
Well, here, I'll say, regarding last season, and, since I'm being a bit out there today, I'll say something else controversial.
Oh, go on.
I feel slighted for last year because, we would have won the league regardless of what they did. And the fact that, they lost, 10 points, because of, financial problems and everything, I feel that cheapened the win. What we did, turning the league around, 15 points or so that day, the game after Christmas at Celtic Park, 1-0, Joe Ledley header, that was such a fucking magical day. And what we did last season, not adding any other points, to the point difference, that I just feel like it's a little bit cheapened by not having, another cup win on top of that, Scottish Cup or League Cup or whatever, just because I feel that last year deserved more. Last season deserved more than that.
Well, plus, considering the MLS team you support, you need all the cups you can get.
Hey, now.
Speaking of MLS, we're now joined by Steve Brandt from the Vuvuzela Soccer Show, a very popular American podcast stroke radio show. You can find them on AM radio here in the States. I've been on their show a few times now. It's absolute quality content coming from American voices about the game, and I'm honored to have you on. Steve, welcome.
Well, thanks. I was going to steal Rev one of these weeks just because I love hearing him just go mental on the game. It's one of those epic things that I listen to when you guys have your shows. I half expect you or Rev just to lose your mind one day. Just Celtic loses, you guys just melt down.
You can count on us.
You'll get that, sure.
We can work out a loan deal for the Rev, by the way, anytime you need him. That's absolutely phenomenal. Steve,
I figure.
Steve, thanks for joining us. Did you have this was not a blue ribbon day for you on all accounts. Did you have a chance to watch the Celtic this morning?
Yeah, I was watching it I was listening to it this morning because I still have hard times watching soccer at this point. But I was setting up today. I'm like, okay, Celtic's going to win, Liverpool's going to win. It's going to be a good day. I won't have to break out a six-pack anytime before about 1 o'clock. After Celtics, it's on its way. St. Mirren's one of those teams you want to pick up by the neck and start strangling just for a couple.
Steven, you don't need a six-pack. You need a pill bottle.
Oh no, that one's already taken care of. But I looked at that going, okay, one team's through, And as I'm listening to it, and I'm watching all the Celtic-minded media losing their mind. I'm like, great. Well, at least the Celtic media aren't completely mental. So Celtic loses. I'm like, okay, this is not going to be good. I can collect my thoughts, and if there's a spot on Graham's show, I could be at least positive. And then Liverpool completely loses its mind, and Liverpool has the worst Twitter following known to man. But
I'm going to stay silent.
I was looking at this, and I was listening to you guys. Yeah, I mean, I've always held this thought. I'm probably the most pessimistic sports fan you'll find. Is that if you don't win and you are a top team like Celtic is in each of your competitions, then it's a failure. I mean, they should win all three every year.
Yep. But you're right. You're right to highlight that. It is so unfair. It's such an unfair standard to hold your club to. I mean, think about it if you're a Stoke supporter, right? If you make it to any cup final, and if you finish in the top 10, it's a banner year for you. You know, but I mean, but when you support a team like Celtic, it's like if you lose a game, like you said, the rev goes mental. And I try and maintain my composure, but it's hard with the rev.
Yeah, it's funny. Is my brother-in-law is a Stoke fan, and he always counts a win as a draw. I mean, he says at this point with being a Stoke fan, if you go in and get a draw anywhere, that's worth it because Stoke is punching well above its weight at any point in its life.
Oh God, how did he become a Stoke fan? Is he a member of the BNP or something?
No. If I told you what his full name is, you would laugh. He's actually from my brother-in-law is actually from Stoke. So
I'm sorry.
Yeah, he's from Stoke. He lives in Syracuse, and he's an expecting father. So he says this has just been the year that's going to be cursing him at this point. So I mean,
wow, God bless him.
Yeah. And he keeps giving me trouble because I keep not talking about Stoke or keep not having the type. I'm like, folks, if you're gonna do a radio show, and you can attest to this, Graham, you're not going to talk about something that's going to completely drivel. If you want that, go listen to Talk Sport or Men in Blazers.
Well played, sir. I like how you tied that together. This is not your first rodeo.
Oh no, this is not my first, and nor is this my first time on radio. I got the FCC after me in Kansas once, but it's a whole separate issue. You can't exactly mouth the F word on terrestrial radio
no, they frown upon that. They frown up. You have to come to the internet, otherwise, they put you in the timeout corner with Howard Stern. I mean, but on the flip side, can you imagine? I mean, we've we're gonna dry our eyes now, and now let's look at it from a different perspective. The starving kids in China sort of analogy. Imagine you're a Stoke fan, okay? Like your brother-in-law, he's from Stoke. Apparently, he's not a member of the BNP. We'll hold you to that word. But imagine having to watch Tony Pulis and the long ball and Roy Delap, with the long throws and everything. I mean, like, wake me up when it's over. Like, it's unbelievably boring. We get to watch. I mean, in my opinion, we get to watch fantastic football every week.
Yeah, and I mean that's what's the fun thing. I mean, as much people as slight Lenny and saying, and I mean, I love the blow up this past week of him answering the phone at the press conference. That's still one of the funniest things. Is he truly gets it, and maybe it's because he's young and hasn't been jilted by all of the coaching badges, but it's fun to watch him. It's like he gets it. It's like there's a part of him that's sitting in the stands.
Bigoted Fenian.
Yeah, he doesn't get the point. He doesn't get the point. He gets the point that Sam Allardyce never has, is that you want to win and not piss off your supporters. Well, so I mean,
but to Sam Allardyce, it's an interesting analogy. But I think, it does work in certain circumstances where. You're right. Sam Allardyce went in with a specific job to bring West Ham back to the Premiership, and he's done that. true, it's not the typical what you'd expect from a West Ham style of play, if you will, but it is having results. I mean, this weekend notwithstanding. But Neil Lennon is much the same. I mean, Neil Lennon has played for Celtic. He grew up supporting Celtic. He knows what Celtic's all about in terms of their ethos, in terms of their style of play, the style of play that the supporters expect from the team. Mm-hmm. But what he also does, with that in mind, is he tempers that a lot with pragmatism. You know, he goes in and, you know, he doesn't sacrifice the attacking flair, but if he adds in an extra holding midfielder when he needs to, he'll do it. You know, and that's had a particular flair and an effect and a pragmatism. I mean, it's his third year coaching, you know, full stop. Full third year as a manager of any club. And he's managing one of the biggest clubs on the face of the earth. And through the course, I think he's done an exceptional job. You know, for a first-time manager. I mean, look at the pile of filth that's over on the other side of Glasgow and what they're going through now. They can't even pay that guy to go away.
I don't think there's enough money in this world to watch what that team was. I mean, I think it's more. And I've read some player biographies. It's more of who the player is brought up by. I mean, if you would look through who Neil Lennon has managed with and who he has around him, there's got to be insane resources at Celtic right now.
Oh, no question.
For him.
No question.
I mean, and plus with who he played under, I mean, he had some pretty decent minds. I mean, yeah, there's the collective mindset that they think Mr. Ferguson at Manchester United is the greatest manager since sliced bread, but
he's a hypocrite.
I have deep psychological hatred of that man. But
well, you also support the Red Scouts team, so. You're biased. I'm completely unbiased, and I call him Slur Alex Whiskey Breath. I kid Sir Alex.
Yeah, but you don't like those Aberdeen days. I mean, I know that's the only way people remember him up north, and I just kind of wish he had been fired in '89 instead of saved. But another strange random issue.
Steve, what do you make of, obviously Celtic is going to be playing against Juventus in 2 weeks' time. I will be, I will be in the air. 2 weeks from now, I'll be in the air. I'll be on a rickety little propeller plane with a diaper on because it's absolutely terrifying me. And I will document the whole thing, I promise you, on video. I will be attending the Juventus game against Celtic. What are your expectations? And give us a perspective. I'm glad that you called because you can give us a perspective from the American fan of the game, not just the Celtic support. I know Celtic is your second team, but you know, just give us a sense for what the mentality is from an American perspective towards Celtic now that they've featured so heavily in the Champions League. Obviously, there's the reality show on Fox Soccer right now.
You know, I think this is one of those things that Celtic needed to happen. I mean, I think Juventus is definitely beatable when they're not cheating. And
oh, did we lose them? Oh, I think Platini cut off his feet.
FCC attacked.
I think Platini attacked him. He just called Juventus. He just called them cheaters. Oh, we lost them right after he called Juventus cheaters. Coincidence? I think not. Bonjour, Monsieur Platini. But in all fairness, they are cheaters. I think they're very beatable. Juventus, not
especially now. It seems like they're. I mean, we're not having the best run of games, I suppose either. But you know, doesn't seem like they are.
Well, they're at the moment they're missing Pirlo, who is really the cog in the Juventus sort of side. Here we come. I guess Platini gave him a
reprieve.
He gave him a pièce de résistance. Did Steve, are you there?
Yeah, sorry.
I think Monsieur Platini gave you a guillotine.
No, I think it's Ryan Nelson up at Toronto FC that kicked me off.
Oh,
I
interesting.
mean, what I was saying is that, you know, I've held this firm that there's Celtic needed to happen. I mean, you and I have talked about this online. Is that Celtic is bigger than people in America think it is. I mean, I work on a big college campus in upstate New York, and I see one or two Celtics tops every day. Now, of course, I did see a Notts County one, but that's because Buffalo's weird.
Yeah.
I think for a whole, you need an iconic team like Celtic to hit it big in the Champions League because the sport is so entrenched with what Celtic is. I mean, you can look back at previous years and saying that Celtic is part of the sport. Juventus is beatable. Let's be honest. They only go on these win streaks or win titles when they're cheating. I mean, the Italian game is just so wrong. The fact that Celtic went into Barcelona and won proves one thing: anybody can be beaten. And once again, I kind of think the Scottish League is better than the Italian League. That's just me, but I'm slightly nuts.
Wow. Okay. I wouldn't go that far. I mean, listen. You can have comparisons here, and I'm trying to figure out where I could start. I mean, Italy has had multiple Champions League winners in the past 10 years, without a doubt. Scotland hasn't had one since 1967. I kind of get what you're saying, within terms of Italy has so many more resources than Scotland ever does. There's obviously with Calciopoli and with all sorts of other legal parameters that are haunting the Italian game just now, and you can see the effect that it's having on the attendance figures from Serie A stadia with the running tracks around the pitches and so on and so forth. So there is a certain stigma surrounding Italian football. Actually, I have a lot of time for Italian football when it's not all about the diving and the flailing around and the cheating. I like the slower build-up, but for me, I mean, the German league would be far ahead of it. But Scotland is on the rise. The SPL, especially, is on the rise. Today was a perfect example of it. This is St. Mirren, and what they put on display. If you did like the Pepsi Challenge and just wiped out the names of the teams, and you were just watching a football game, you'd be impressed with some of the play that was out there today.
Yeah, I mean, I was. I mean, I've been to some Italian matches. Well, of course, this was in the '90s, but I've always looked at the style of play in Scotland much more earthy and true to the game. Italy there's something wrong about the games and Juventus, it seems like they always are trying to look for that flair type of player. And yeah, they've had titles, but I mean, then again, let's think about the Liverpool AC Milan one that's in Istanbul. AC Milan should have won that one going away, but they choked. What's not saying Celtic can't go in on the 12th and not quite blow them out of the water, eke out a 1-0 win. Strange things have happened in the sport, folks.
Yeah, and I firmly believe. I mean, I said this last week. I'll say it again. Celtic are going to get past Juventus. They are. And that's not me saying I'm going and it's going to be a great result, because I'm there or anything else. They will beat Juventus for very good reasons. I mean, first off, they'll show up, which today, they obviously didn't. But well, anyway, it's going to be a great time. It's going to be an interesting trip. I'm open to all suggestions from people who have been to Glasgow, for the first time. Any sort of advice. I need advice. I mean, am I going to step off the plane and am I going to have a pack of rabid Huns or even some some competing Celtic online media types waiting to stab me? I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm going to dress up in a burqa the entire week, a black burqa. Nobody's even going to know I'm there. If you want to say hello, I'll be the guy in the burqa.
Just change your name to Piers Morgan while you're over there.
Oh yeah. That'll win me lots of fans. Steve, before we let you go, we have a couple more people we want to get to. Give your show and what you're working on. Give it a punt and let our listeners know where we can find you because I think it's great work.
Part of the.
Go ahead.
Well, as I could say, I'm part of the Vuvuzela network. I do the Tuesday show. I've had Graham on a number of times. As far as anything else you'd see me, I do a historical blog on Chivas USA, and I've done stuff for the great Seamus Cummings on iCeltic. And as You guys know. You guys can always find me at Speaking at Soc. It says Speaking on Soc E, but it's really Speaking on Soccer on Twitter. I'll talk to you guys later.
Fantastic. So we'll, send us a tweet. I'll retweet it. That way, the listeners who follow me on Twitter can check it out and can follow you, because it's great stuff. It gives a very interesting insight into how Americans perceive the European game, and as well as the work that you do with the MLS. Obviously, that's going to be heating up, and Rev is just really hopeful that this might be the year where his Metro Bulls can win their first cup.
Well, I keep reminding these New York fans that there's one team that has won more cups than they have, and they're in the new NASL. So let's go.
Oof, that hurts. That hurts.
Steve, it's a non-existent team, so it's okay.
Yeah, with one player that played with Carlos Mendez, but I already have those issues with my crazy Brit on the West Coast. So.
Oh, you mean the guy who said that Celtic would never be at Barcelona? Yeah, blow him a kiss for me, would you?
No, thanks. I'll leave his favorite girl, Kim Kardashian, to do that for him.
I think that speaks for itself. Steve, thanks so much for calling in. We'll talk to you soon, all right, pal?
Yeah, all right, talk to you. Thanks.
That's Steve Brandt calling in from the Vuvuzela Soccer Podcast. Good stuff. Knows his stuff, and very, very good offering there for podcasts and things of that nature. He also does blogs and stuff, exceptional writing. Did some work for iCeltic, so check him out. He's a good guy. Hopefully he'll be calling in more in the future. But now, go ahead.
Since Chivas was brought up, I guess, it looks pretty unlikely that we'll be getting Agudelo at Celtic, so there's that.
Thank God. I know you don't rate him, and neither do I. But...
Oh, yeah.
Oh! We're now joined, I think we're joined by a caller from Austria. Johnny, are you there?
You're right. First time caller.
Johnny, I think that, what do they refer to that as? First time, long time? Johnny, welcome. You're live on the Beyond the Wave Celtic Football Show. How you doing, pal? What was your...
Hail.
Did you have an opportunity to watch the game today?
I only managed to see the first half. I had to work, but I'm pretty glad I missed the second half, to be honest. It sounded absolute piss. It didn't sound very good.
It was dreadful. Don't worry about cursing. You can curse all you like. It's the internet. So nobody will bother us.
It's actually... I'm not really... I don't want to speak about it today, I'm trying to just put it behind me, move forward. It's actually quite funny. I was going to ask you about Juan Agudelo.
Go ahead, Rev. Go ahead.
There's rumors that he's thinking about coming. What, is he a decent player?
You've called the right place. Rev, let him have it.
No. He's a big guy. He's tall. You would think he would have, some power and some balls about him, but he would just get kicked off the pitch every game.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. In spite of his size, he's listed at 6'1". I think that might be a bit generous, but in spite of his size, he doesn't have enough strength, I think, to be able to last in the SPL. He does have, he's got very good technique. I think he can finish, but he makes Aiden McGeady look like, his petulance doesn't even rival Juan Agudelo's. He goes down for the simplest thing, and as soon as he doesn't get a call or two, he drops his head. I think he's still a young player, and some young players, they have the mentality. Look at Izagiri when he first came here, Matthews, even Tony Watt to a certain extent. They don't. Yeah. Nothing seems to faze them. I think Juan Agudelo has some maturing to do, both physically and mentally. And I don't think for the type of money that's being rumored to be required for him, I think we can spend that money in a much more sort of efficient manner, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Have you got any names you'd pull out the hat? Because there was a rumour a couple of months ago that Yakinta, he was rumoured in the Italian Gazette to be thinking of coming to Celtic. Because we need somebody to replace Hooper. Hooper's going to go. You were saying earlier, it's a matter of time before he goes, but... Any ideas who'd you like to see in his place?
Yakinta is definitely interesting. We were just talking about the Serie A there, and I've had a lot of time for him in the past. I think he's getting a bit on in years, and I'm not sure that that's really sort of the profile that we need to be going after at this moment. I'll turn it back to you. Obviously we're going to need to replace Hooper. He's good for 20 to 30 goals a season, and you just don't just let that go without any sort of quality to be able to step in and fill those boots. But we've taken on this mantra of trying to bring in this unknown talent for good value, for good an efficient use of our money. Gary Hooper is a good example of that. $2.2 million. Do we break the bank and maybe bring on an aging star similar to the mantra of the Martin O'Neill years, or do we continue on with this sort of thesis that we've been on that's been so successful? Do we continue with this and try and we've also been rumored to be in for a player from Maccabi Haifa, I believe, Atar, who's currently the leading scorer in the Israeli league. I mean, his average, I think, is a goal every 2 games. He's got a phenomenal strike rate, looks to be the business, has exceptional strength for a smaller player, which you like to see, especially in the mold of a Gary Hooper, front to goal striker. I think for me, I would like to go more in that route. I'm more excited, and this was touched on in the Rebel podcast and others. I'm more excited by the signings that we get that we've never heard of before, rather than like you mentioned. I mean, like I said, I have a lot of time for a player like Yakinta, but I mean, is this just going to be a situation where we're getting the last couple of puffs off the cigar, or do we want to try and create legends like Jock Steen said? What's your take on that?
I hear what you're saying, mate. I definitely agree with your point about not going for has-beens, but saying that, I mean, in the last 3 or 4 years, this was the most money Celtic have ever had. I mean, the amount of money we've made off the Champions League.
Yep.
We've still got McGeady, what we sold McGeady for. Not all that's been spent.
Yep.
We've got plenty of cash. Like, I think if you've got the money, it's a bit of a gamble, but is it not more? Is it not less of a gamble than bringing somebody in? And you know what I mean? It's going to be hard to fill Hooper's boots.
Yeah.
I think my opinion is, Celtic have got money at the moment. I wouldn't say wasting it, but I'd say, spend a bit of it and bring somebody established in.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be an interesting question going forward, especially since we've had this windfall of cash. Like you said, I mean, it's rumored we're going to bring in close to £30 million just from the Champions League. Nothing else. That doesn't include whatever we're going to make for Victor Wanyama if and when he is sold in the summer. And that doesn't also include the money that we're going to bring in for Gary Hooper, again, if and when he's sold in the summer. So we're like you said, we're going to be sitting on piles of cash. But the question is, do we not just revamp our strategy in terms of the players that we buy, but also in terms of our wage structure? And I think that's going to be a key part of this. That's a key part of what's holding Hooper's deal back. Hooper wants to be paid along the lines of what Scott Brown's on, what Joe Ledley's on, and Celtic don't seem inclined to want to do that. But if we ratchet up the amount of money that we're going to be paying for some of these stars and bring them in, at say $20,000 a week or something, just as a starting point, 2 years, 3 years down the line, they're going to want a pay raise. And then the question becomes, will we be able to get anything from that sale on? I see your point, and I wouldn't mind a slight increase in the amount of money that we might pay for some upper echelon players, perhaps in, I know this isn't going to win a lot of fans, especially considering the outcome of the Efren Juarez deal, but maybe going after some of the upper echelon talent, which there's a plethora of in the Mexican League, or maybe in the French League, or the French League might be a bit aggressive, but the Belgian League. Look, I mean, that's where we got Victor Wanyama.
That's where Wanyama came from, yeah.
Exactly. And I mean, keep in mind, we also need to be mindful of work permit issues and things of that nature. With that being said, for some of these players, that gets me on to another topic I wanted to touch on today. And you being in Austria, you might be able to sort of expand on this with your own thoughts. But, we think about the players that we've signed over the past several years, who we've needed to get work permits, where I have no idea how they got work permits in the first place. I mean, Victor Wanyama, right? One of the requirements is, and this was touched on the Homeboys Down Under on Friday, where they talked to an Australian journalist by way of Scotland, who was talking about the requirement being that the player needs to play for their national side for 2 years and play in 75% of their games. And that team needs to be, that international side needs to be in the top 75 in the world. Well, Kenya isn't in the top 75 in the world, and I'm not too sure Victor Wanyama played in 75% of the games prior to. Because keep in mind, we bought him when he was 19. So how we skirted the work permit issue with him, I'm not going to, I mean, I am asking questions, but it's amazing that we did that. Here's this boy, Rajic, that we just bought this past week. We got the work permit for him. He's had one cap for Australia. So I'm not so sure how we skirted the rules with that either. It was rumored that his parents had I want to say Slovenian Serbian passport, but that's not in the EU. So, that doesn't qualify under that logic. Ambrose is much the same. So I'm not sure how we've skirted the work permit issue, but long may it last, as far as I'm concerned, because we've been able to bring in
a grey area, to be honest. I myself haven't got a clue how it works. Austria being in the EU, it's not been an issue for me. But no, I hear what you're saying. The thing is, it's scouts. Have we got scouts in those sort of places?
Well, we have the partnership with Santos Laguna in the Mexican League that I referred to in the past, and it seems as though we have a wide-ranging network in Australia, which is good because there is talent coming out of Australia now. I mean, prior to this Rogic or some of the other Australian young talent that's coming up just now. I mean, you had Harry Kuehl. And other than that, really no. I mean, I don't remember Scott McDonald being some Australian phenom. I mean, he obviously kicked us right in the balls when he was with Motherwell. But it does seem to have a bit of development potential there, and it's good to see that Celtic is going and trying to tap that. I wish there was more of an effort in America, but to be honest with you, I'm not so sure how much value there would be in scouting in America. I think really the opportunities are Central and South America. I think Australia is an interesting place. And then, of course, Scandinavia, where we just seem to go into that well repeatedly. And Bangura withstanding, it seems to pay off dividends almost every time.
Absolutely. Well, at a different point, do you think there's any players we could cash in? Players maybe we're not necessarily for the squad that we could get a bit of money for before the transfer window goes out. I was thinking, what do you think? Last couple of weeks, his behaviour's been pretty off. I know he's been injured, but apart from last season, he's not really been doing it for Anthony Stokes.
Your question is whether or not Anthony Stokes may leave in the transfer window?
Well, what would you take? What would you? Would you if say a bid for $2.5 million came in for him, would you bite your hand off it?
For Anthony Stokes? Oh my God, I'd drive him there, wherever it was. If the Pad Thai pot stickers from the Chinese league offered $2.5 million for him, I would drive him to China myself. I don't think there's going to be a bid in for him that would even rival that. I just, like you said, he's been injured for so long, and I think he has a bit of a stigma about him, whether, however merited you want to put it. I mean, the stigma is there, but I think he's far too important for us going forward than he would be in terms of raising some cash. But obviously, like you say, we're dealing with a bit of a bloated squad at the moment, and there are some players that we could probably do with getting off the wage sheet. One of them, and I hate to say this, is Paddy McCourt. Paddy McCourt at this point, he's not.
You're right, mate.
He's not on big money. I mean, it's rumored that he's on like $6,000 a week, which is absolutely unbelievable. But nonetheless, I don't see him having an opportunity to play really at all. I mean, even in that sort of substitutes role, you talk about being injured all the time. He's not fit enough. I think he's not getting any younger. I mean, what is he? 28, 29 years old at this point? You know what? I think you're cutting out. Oh, we lost him. Johnny, if you're listening, give us about 10 minutes. We'll try and get you back on. Jerry, turn down your Spreaker if you can, pal.
Just about to do that, Graham.
Perfect.
Just give me a second.
That guy speaking in the background sounds handsome.
I think it's the dick.
Yeah, you would, wouldn't you?
Listening. Give us about 10 minutes. We'll try and get you back on.
Oh, there he is again.
How are we doing, Graham?
Jerry, do me a favor and just turn the Spreaker completely off. I think he did.
Off now, is it?
Yeah, we're good. I can't even hear myself. It's perfect. It's bliss. Jerry, thanks so much for calling in. You're live on the Beyond the Wave Celtic Football Show. Talk us down from the ledge. I mean, listen, for me personally, I'm disappointed at the result. But I'm surprisingly to some, I'm sure, I'm trying to put it in perspective, and it's pretty easy to figure it out. The players just didn't show up today. Full stop. I can't put it on Neil Lennon. I don't think he got the tactics drastically wrong. I just think that the focus wasn't there, the energy level wasn't there, and to complicate matters even further, St. Mirren wanted this and they wanted it bad.
Yeah. I was there today, Graham, and I mean, I thought you and Rev asked a lot of really good questions at the start of the show, but I think in terms of the game, I don't think the approach was right. I think you made a really excellent point about Hampden has become a major issue for us now, because I mean, I've watched the vast majority of Celtic's games in the last few years, and especially since Neil came to us as the manager again, we just have consistently failed there time again. Apart from winning the cup against Motherwell, we just haven't done it. And looking at the players today, they've met a hungrier team, and they just never seem to be up for it for most of the game. And, to some extent, I think Neil does take the blame, because, when I think of Martin O'Neill in a lot of these games, he did have the team firing on all cylinders from the kick-off, and it almost didn't matter to him what team we were playing. He would go there and we would get the job done. But in all fairness to Neil, one of the things that I think's been brilliant about him, if you think of all the challenge that he's faced since he came here, he's faced up to them and taken them ahead. The whole idea was, and I think you said it, he didn't win big games, and he overcame that. When you think of the personal struggles that he overcame, the fact that he stood up was remarkable. And I think in terms of taking you off the ledge, I have total faith that Neil Lennon and this current group of players will look at Hampden now and overcome that. I'm very hopeful that we can win the Scottish Cup. And, in terms of Rev's point, would it be a successful season if we didn't win the Scottish Cup? I would say 100 times out of 100 it's been a successful season. And I think the reason is this. I think that the Champions League outcome is worth, arguably for the club in terms of kudos and respect, what is worth 10 League Cup victories or 10 Scottish Cup victories. The financial boost that it's given us, and we're now seen as a a team in Europe again. So I think on that basis alone, winning the getting through to the last 16, and winning the championship, which I'm sure we'll do, I think undeniably it would be a successful season.
There you go, Rev.
That's a good answer.
Yeah, it is. No, I definitely see the point in. I mean, this is a tough. Rev asked a tough question. Now, you know what? I don't know what to think, so I'm gonna criticize the Rev for a stupid question. No, I'm kidding. I love the Rev, but there's so much context that needs to play out from here. But Jerry, you're right. What we have seen consistently from Neil Lennon is these are peaks and troughs that come with him, but it's an upward trajectory every time. Yes, we get to a certain plateau, things sort of level off for a little while, and other teams figure us out, or complacency sets in, whatever the case is. But Neil Lennon learns from his mistakes and he moves on, and he doesn't make the same mistake over and over and take it on the chin and everything else. And I fully believe that he's going to point to this as an example to motivate the players on, to motivate them going forward. It's my opinion. I've said this numerous times today. I think it was a combination of the players having their heads turned, either for other players being rumored to be off, or themselves being rumored to be off, combined with Juventus. I think they have their attention focused fully on Juventus at this point, and it's very dangerous, especially considering we have another cup tie in the interim. And it's against Wraith Rovers, and you can talk about how badly we beat them earlier in the season in the League Cup, but as today pointed out, any day anything can happen. And if we're not going to show up and show the desire and the hunger to go out and get that result, and just the passionate drive to want it, we're not entitled to anything. That's another point that's lost, and we touched on a little bit with Steven. People are outraged today, and I am too, to a large extent. But let's not forget that St. Mirren are not there just to make up the numbers, and they proved it today. And we are not entitled to win anything. If that were the case, that would be an extreme disservice to the effort that has been put forth to get us to the point where we're 12 points ahead with, I believe, a game in hand. That wasn't just handed to us. There were a lot of fantastic performances that went into that to get those points against some good teams. You know, we didn't have it today. Two really, really costly errors, I would say, from Charlie Mulgrew. That was really the difference, combined with, you know, a lack of desire. But we're not entitled to win anything.
2 minutes. Right, I've just come. Yeah, Graham, listen, you know, I think you summed it all up extremely well. Final point I'll make, I've just been invited for a cup of tea by my better half. Is that we do agree on one thing. Yet again, Neil hasn't paid the creative player today. You know, McGeer, the sort of person that might be able to run at a defence, can make a pass.
Yep.
I'm delighted Roderick's coming in, and I hope he learns that we need to use Dylan or Roderick over the next few weeks and months, because I think they could be the key to breaking defences like St Mirren up today. But I'm sure he will learn. He's done it for us before, and I think there's still a great deal to look forward to, and I'm sure we'll have a successful season. Cheers, guys.
Jerry, we'll let you run. Cheers. Thanks so much for calling in, pal. We'll talk to you soon. Hail, hail.
Yes, bye.
Jerry's got to go get the tea. We can't hold him back. That's so
Always
nice.
need a cuppa.
I know, that's so nice. You know, there's just a time where you just step aside. It's like, you know, you just have some tea and you just kick back. It's nice. Why don't we do that? I could use that. All this
I'm too angry for tea.
Pent up anger. I know, I'd throw the cup. This tea is crap.
I do enjoy, you know, the tea during the winter especially, but no, more times than not, I'm too angry to sit down and do that.
This tea is crap. We're now joined by the gaffer, Josh Gaffney, the purveyor of all things CelticTalk.org, as well as the great work he does with the Hail Hail Media website and Paradise Preview. Hello, Josh. Thanks for calling in. First off, I want to check in with you. How is your ankle? It seemed as though you took a bit of a knock. Looked more like a mosquito bite. But what were you playing, fives?
Yeah, I was playing 5-sides and I got...
Did a mosquito bite you?
I tried to block a shot and basically kicked my ankle.
Good man.
But I've got it up there now with a hot water bottle on it.
Oh, lovely.
It's gone well.
Are you having some tea?
No.
You should have some tea. It sounds lovely.
I'd rather a Percocet myself.
Yeah, Rev the junkie. Josh, what did you make of the game today? I mean, you know, it's another one of those emotional sort of disappointments. I mean, it really is sort of, to put it in perspective, it really does bump up against our expectations. Our expectations are that we're going to win every game, but the reality is we're not going to win every game. It's unfortunate that this happened in a cup tie, you know, where this essentially eliminates us from the domestic treble, but it does happen, you know, and these are learning opportunities. This is a young team. You know, let's not kid ourselves. I mean, Cherry made a good point where, you know, he's talking about the Martin O'Neill years when, you know, Martin O'Neill always had those players ready for big moments, et cetera, et cetera. But Martin O'Neill had a team full of veterans, a team full of guys who had been there before, who had sort of proved their steel, proved their worth, and came with, you know, an abundance of you know, precedent to lean back on. These players don't have that to a large extent. I mean, yes, you know, the Champions League campaign thus far was certainly, you know, did wonders to boost confidence and everything else. But, you know, it's a situation of what do you do when you get knocked to the floor? You know, do you raise yourself back up? Do you keep things into perspective? Do you lose your head? Do you go running about, you know, looking to pick up a stupid yellow card? And these players are young, and that's much more challenging, I think, for Neil Lennon. Your thoughts there?
Well, I've been listening to the whole show, and basically, there's quite a few different opinions out there about today's game.
Yes, there are.
People blame the players, some people blaming Lennon, some people blaming the penalties, or some people blaming certain players, or all the players, or the tactics.
The Rev blames me.
And I think it's a little bit of everything. But I think what we've got to do is try and find out what's really causing this, because this is really the fourth time we've been knocked out of a cup competition at late stage, in a semi-final or final under Neil Lennon. And immediately some people might say, "Oh, it's Neil Lennon." I think it's a combination of several factors, and I think we've got to try and look out and see how we can fix this issue.
What are your thoughts?
Well, I think today we lacked creativity and a bit of pace out wide.
Agreed.
Several times we managed to break on the counter-attack, and the ball broke to Lassad or Samaras, who were starting out wide initially, and they just didn't have the ability to really play with the ball out wide and cause more problems.
Well, they possess the ball out wide, they try and cut it, and then they'd lose possession.
Yeah, so I think today we've really lacked proper wide men. And then we couldn't move Scott Brown out there, but we know for him as well, he's not really a proper winger as well. He likes to come inside as well.
Although his ball in for Hooper's goal was sublime.
Yeah, it was a sublime goal, but I'd prefer him to be playing next to Ledley and Wanyama.
Agreed.
Rather than out on the right. So I think we lacked personnel out wide. So we went with the 4-3-3. Clearly didn't work. Then we had to kind of revert to a 4-2-2. No, a 4-4-2. Sorry. And Sitman's tactic was really just play really narrow, because we weren't threatening them out wide at all throughout the game, and it just allowed them to play narrow, stay inside the box, and deal with every single ball, and then hit us on the counter-attack, which was really effective.
No, I think you're absolutely... I think they were more of like the 4-4-2 diamond, in the middle, where you're right, they played narrow, and they just clogged up all of the channels, and our 4-3-3... it was just completely overran. I can't even say that it was overran. It was just completely negated. It was neutralized. Any sort of channel that would open up that we'd potentially have a pass to find one of our three forwards was immediately closed down, and then they'd hit us on the break. And they were not shy at all about attacking. And as I mentioned before, full credit to them, for doing that. Instead of, they go a goal up and then just sort of park the bus, they kept coming after us.
Yeah, and I think it's really evident because Matthews and Izagiri had quite bad games today, because they were trying to provide someone. They were trying to go forward and give someone in the team to give us attacking options, but we just kept on giving the ball away in the final third or even in the middle third. Just stupid balls, try to play some nice one like 1-2s, or playing some very predictable passes, and just kept on losing the ball, and then they too were being caught out of position quite often. And also, you've got Zaluska as well. People saying, "Oh, Zaluska, he's not as good as Fraser Forster."
He's not.
It's not just Zaluska himself. Having Fraser Forster on the team just gives the centre defenders that little bit more confidence in our goalkeeper.
Well,
so when Zaluska's in goal, you might see Mulgrew or Kevin Wilson taking a little bit more of a risk to try stop any attempt on goal.
Well, you know what, that's a very interesting theme, and my take on that, and I'll sort of take it in a different direction, but I essentially agree with you there. First off, Zaluska is not Fraser Forster. Fraser Forster has established himself as being another level in terms of his ability, in terms of his mentality, in terms of his instinct. So it's almost even unfair to compare Zaluska to Forster. But in the context of the outcome of the game, we've seen time and again where Fraser Forster not only has saved us points, but he's won us points. And when you're looking at the result today, obviously nobody but Lee McCulloch refers to cup games in terms of points, but when you look at the result from today, you have to say that Fraser Forster would have done better. Now, to highlight your point in terms of the central defense playing a different way, I completely agree with you, but I think that one of the most underappreciated aspects of Fraser Forster's game, of course he's gotten better at kicking the ball, of course he's gotten better at commanding the box, of owning it. He's always been a pretty decent shot stopper, but he's even improved there. But especially the communication between him and in the center halves. I mean, he's always talking. You know that there's communication there, and that's absolutely vital, especially when we're going to play such a high line. So I agree completely with you there. And it's natural to assume and to observe Zaluska is not going to have that same level, because not only has he not had as much of an opportunity to play with the center halves, but we're missing F.A. Ambrose at the moment, who has really solidified his position next to Kelvin Wilson as the starting center half pairing, more often than not. So you have a bit of a patchwork center half pairing at the moment with our second string keeper who's not used to communicating there. And of course, it's going to be a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, we don't really have someone who just really someone solid in their defence that's there every single game. Like you've got Mulgrew, and he's played captain a few times, and bossed the defence, but he's not really played that centre defence that much this season. Kevin Wilson, he's not really got to command the defence, neither is Matthews or Azagiri. So usually it's up to Fraser Forster to make sure the back line is doing their job. But he wasn't there the day. Ambrose wasn't there, who does an amazing job. I think Ambrose is a big reason why Kevin Wilson has shined so far this season, because the two of them have just had great chemistry.
Excellent point there, Gaffer. Let me ask you this. Go ahead.
They've been disrupted. Fraser Forster going out, that's a bit of a disruption. Then you've got Ambrose going out as well, so that's even more of a disruption. And, it just makes it a bit tough at the back to organise it all.
Exactly. And we should be able to overcome that and get the result today. We didn't. That's obviously not the reason why we lost today, but it certainly doesn't help, like you highlighted there. I think it's an exceptional point. Let me ask you this. A player that's returned to the lineup, not of course the starting 11, but returned to availability, Anthony Stokes. Now, with the advent of this 4-3-3, I'm not so sure how Anthony Stokes would fit into Lennon's concept of this 4-3-3, especially with preferring Losada on one side and Samaras on the other. Stokes really shines in that 4-4-2 pairing up with Gary Hooper. We had a caller earlier on that doesn't really rate him. My feelings on him. I'm Team Stokesy for no uncertain terms. What do you see Anthony Stokes' role in this team for the second half of the season? Do you see him eventually creeping back into the starting 11? Do you think that he did himself any harm or any favors in his performance today? I mean, obviously, like I said before, substituted on with less than 20 minutes to go, trying to fit into a side where the 9 other outfield players have been playing in a completely different system. Now all of a sudden you need to fit in, or essentially they need to fit themselves around you coming in and the new system, because Stokesy's going to be a completely different player to Sammy and or Lasad. So it was always going to be a tough ask for him. What did you make of his performance today? Did he do himself any harm going forward? Do you see himself sort of easing his way back into the starting 11? I mean, obviously these cup ties are really where he shined in the past. Could this be an outlet for him? We got the Wraith Rovers game coming up. Your thoughts there?
Well, I think for that you really need to look back to last season. And if you remember last season, Neil Lennon was trying to bring in the 3-5-2 formation and, try a 4-3-3 as well. And quite often, Stokes was finding himself wide on the left, sort of in that Samaras type position. Even when he was playing as a striker, he used to kind of, drift out wide. He can send in a good cross from that position as well. Sort of kind of like Samaras, maybe what Neil Lennon's maybe planning, but he's not got the same physical presence as Samaras, so I'm not sure if putting him out wide on the left would really work that well. It's a good question, and really I've not got much of an idea. Maybe a sort of 4-3-2-1, like what we've been playing recently with Lasad and Samaras in behind Guy Hooper, but perhaps putting Stokes on the right and Samaras on the left, because I don't think we're going to have James Forrest for the rest of the season, to be honest.
That's shocking. I mean, is it just this chronic hamstring deal and they just want to shut him down and make sure that they get it completely right instead of trying to rush him back every couple months and then have him do his hamstring again and further set it off? Is that's sort of the mindset going on?
Well, I hope that we've just got his long-term future in mind.
Yeah.
But, if it looks like Neil Lennon likes the 4-3-3 formation, I'm not too sure what Neil Lennon's thinking, but, first thing that kind of comes to my mind is competition with Lasad.
I think it's Juventus. Flat out. I think that, originally he wanted to match R352 up with Juventus that obviously didn't work. He tried it with the Hibbs tie, and it was an absolute disaster. He's tried it in a couple other situations, and even went to it when we were 3-1 down today, and did provide, I guess, a more of an attacking flair. But as you highlighted before, when we did have some link up where it did seem like we were trying to send the 1-2s through. I mean, Gary Hooper's trying back heels behind the back to nobody in particular, slack passing, et cetera, et cetera. He thought he was the Harlem Globetrotters. That's never going to work. But I think that in place of the 3-5-2, he's reverted down to a 4-3-3. And that this still allows us to have the width from our fullbacks. You're going to have more steel in the middle of the park that can drop back and help out with our center halves. But the key element going up against Juventus is finding that space in between their wingbacks, because their wingbacks are going to push forward, and by all accounts they don't do as well to track back, but they don't need to in Serie A because it's a much slower build. So if we can provide a bit of pace and a bit of tempo in transition, we're going to catch them on their heels. And their back line of three is without some key players. Obviously, Giorgio Chiellini being a big part of that, and obviously Pirlo has been sat out for the past couple of weeks. He's really the cog that runs everything through that Juventus side. Without Pirlo, this is Juventus from 2 years ago, and if you remember, they were not good. So I think that they're resting Pirlo with the Champions League in mind, but it's imperative for us to have that width. I think the 4-3-3 would allow us to do that, and he wants to match up man for man up top with some size, and that's where the Lasad and Samaras both line up, because they'd be able to occupy two of their center halves, obviously opening up opportunities potentially for Gary Hooper. I don't see Neil Lennon chucking the 4-3-3 until after Juventus, by which case I would assume he'd go back to the 4-4-2. But the 4-2-3-1 is always an interesting one, because I do think that we have the personnel from the back line as well as the holding midfielders that you'd want in that formation. But the question then becomes, who do you put in that sort of trident? Do you put Samaras in that more withdrawn role where I think he's really come into his own? Can Lasad play there? I think today it's probably a knock against that. I think Lasad is more of an up-top, sort of in-the-box type striker and a bit more of a target man. Gary Hooper is not going to drop back. I think that he can revert back a bit more, and then Chris Commons is available for that. But what role do the fullbacks play in that? Do they get forward? Do they start overlapping? Who are they overlapping with? I think that's more of an adjustment, and I think it may be a bit less flexible, but we'll have to see. I mean, it's an interesting one. I think we'll always probably want them going back to the 4-4-2, but the personnel is going to be the biggest question. Is Stokesy going to find his place again, or is Lasad going to push on in spite of he really hasn't been a prolific goal scorer.
Yeah, I'm not too sure why, because he's definitely got a good finish. The only thing I'd really say in terms of weakness of Lasad is his strength, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
He seems to run into defenders quite often and lose the ball quite easily.
Yeah.
He might just need more experience in the Scottish game, perhaps.
Yeah, you can tell that he came from La Liga, no question about it. I mean, it's completely different playing in Scotland. Miku, I would assume is definitely gone. I wouldn't be surprised if he left before the end of the transfer window, if we can come up with some sort of deal so we can get him off the wage sheet. But it's clear that he has not been able to acclimatize to the different style of play in Scotland. I think Lasad is making strides to get acclimated, but it's not an overnight sort of fix, because the differences between the styles are so dramatic.
Yeah.
Josh, thanks for calling in, pal. What's the latest? You have anything to punt?
Not any balls anytime soon.
Well, there was one that I was basically just coming on just to basically mention one little thing that answered your questions.
Go ahead.
You're talking about players, in kind of unknown leagues.
Yeah.
And I basically did a little bit looking around and seeing what kind of connections we have and how we've actually searched out our players. And quite a few of them, we've found them due to connections, basically through agencies. So, if we have, say, Guy Hooper on a certain agency, then it seems to be that we are rumoured or we get into actual discussions with players from that same agency. So I did a little scouting around, seeing what kind of agencies all the Celtic players are, and I've seen a couple of little players that might like to look at, or the same kind of caliber of players.
Represented by Dudu?
No.
Dudu Dahan. He's Kyle's agent. He's Ambrose's agent. He's Gershon's agent. He's like the flavor of the week for Peter Lowell. You have somebody else?
Well, the first one, he's got the same agent as Victor Wanyama, and he's only got about 30 players under his command. So
who's Wanyama's agent? Rob Stone?
I'm not sure who it is. I've not got the name written down. I've only got the player's name.
Come on.
It's Ayanda Patose. He's an attacking midfielder. He can play on both wings, and I think we could get him for about 2 or 3 million. I'd suggest look him up. 20 years old, plays in the Belgian league, and he's really flexible, and he's got a great delivery on him. He can definitely whip in a cross.
Send us a tweet.
I think that's the type of player we want to look at.
Send us a tweet with it.
Can send a cross.
Yeah, I'd like to look at it. Send a tweet over, and then we'll retweet it, or tweet it yourself, and I'll retweet it. I know where to find you. But
another one is Andres Cornelius. I don't know if you've heard of him.
I've never heard it pronounced that way. If I have heard it, where does he play? Tell us about him.
Plays for FC Copenhagen. He just broke through for them this season. He's 19 years old, 6'4".
Whoa! And
he's got 14 goals and 4 assists in 20 games. Lovely. And this is his breakthrough season.
He's centre forward?
Centre forward, 6'4", and he's fantastic in the air.
Lovely. Does he have long hair?
No.
Oh, okay.
And he's also got European experience. So is Patose. He's got European experience as well. That's kind of what I was looking for, a young player with European experience to really push forward our European campaign next season.
Good stuff. And they're both represented by Wanyama's agent?
No, Cornelius, he's got the same agent as Guy Hooper.
Ah, I see. Well, both of them are leaving, so they can get to fuck. No, I'm just kidding.
Cornelius, I'm guessing we could get him for between 3 and 5 million. I don't think we'd bid 5 million for him, but 3 million potentially for Cornelius.
Oof.
And for Patose, probably about 2. Up from Ambroses, but these guys have they've already got European experience underneath their belt, which is great for that age.
Josh Gaffney, he's a big spender, but we love him. Thank you so much for calling in, and look forward. We'll have to get back on it with the Paradise preview this week. Lot to look forward to, and I'll be seeing you in 2 weeks' time.
Sure will.
Fantastic. Look forward to it, pal. Have a good day.
Hail.
Yep. Cheers. How about?
John Park, eat your heart out.
Yeah, the gaffer's on the case. Although, spend a lot of money. Shout out to Paul in the chat room. He's always a cheery one. He calls me the moany one, but if you're in the chat right now, it's absolutely it's genius. Saint Sextus. Love you, Paul. Mean it. Another 2 hours down. Rev. I think we've beaten this to death. We'll wrap up with this. Gary Hooper, not going anywhere. Victor Wanyama, not going anywhere. At least not in this transfer window. Everybody needs to take a deep breath, step away from the ledge. They are not leaving. If anybody's leaving, it's going to be Patty McCourt on a loan deal to Leeds. That's it.
Leeds, I think they already went in for him, but they took their bid back because they didn't want to incite a riot.
That's a first. Leeds wanting to avoid a riot.
No, real quick, when you're talking about Stokes before, I was just thinking, when, 2 years ago when he and Hooper both signed and stuff, and it's been a while, I don't even remember who said it, but, it was put out there that, they would, potentially be the best striking pair Celtics had since Hartson and Sutton, and I could see that, the potential's there, but unfortunately the two of them were just, one was always injured, and while the other one was playing, and they just, didn't seem to sync up in, they're actually like playing time together. So I would like to hopefully see them together before the season's out again.
Yeah, I would agree. No question about it. We have one more caller. We cannot end the show without talking to this man, the ubiquitous, the talented, the eloquent Tommy in Glasgow from Tommy.
Yeah, tinfoil covered, scolded up. It's raining. It's single fishing in the sky. Bring an overcoat, an umbrella, and bring your long johns. My friend from Catalonia came over, and he went back with double, treble pneumonia or something. His own penicillin, and he's wrapped up. He can't believe it, how cold it was here. So, what's it saying? You're a Philly boy. Oh, listen, by the way, I'll need to speak to you off air if it's possible.
Yeah, sure.
Graham,
sure.
A wee boy. Hello?
Yeah, I got you.
Can you hear me? A wee boy became a big Philly fan, the Philly Eagles.
Hey!
I've been playing him on.
Good man.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Good man. Don't listen to the Rev. You made a good choice.
Well, listen, because I'm definitely going to Wembley this year because I got tickets for the 49ers Jaguars game. He's became an NFL fan recently, so every time I play him on the old Madden, he always goes the Philly Eagles. So I'll speak to you maybe some point for later on. But listen, we'll talk about Celtic now. I've listened to some of the show. I just had to divert myself there for the last half hour. Almost the last half hour. But watching the game, I woke up today, sadly anyway, for myself, with half an hour gone, and it was 1-0 to St Mirren. Now, we can have our off days, and that's allowed. But what we're finding, that we're having too many off days. And the players don't seem to be rising to the game. They can lift themselves for the European nights, and it's all well and good. But then for fans who have paid 500 brick, right, and follow Celtic home and away, is this good enough?
No, I think you're absolutely
enough.
right.
Are Celtic fans happy with what's happening on the park just now? And I think a lot of fans have every right to be disgruntled. I mean, I'm a big African game hunter type myself. I'll go for the big games if I get a chance. I don't put in the groundwork. And there's too many big game hunters wearing a Celtic jersey. Now, I've had many guesses before and come up with whatever. Now, we can say you can believe in hoodoos or voodoo economics or voodoos on the park. I don't believe it. I believe you make your own luck. And yet, okay, we always know what happens in Scottish football with the mountain we've got to climb with the referees. So we're always facing a 12th man. But as late today, if we're playing with 10 players, if somebody's heads maybe have been twisted and turned by a certain manager who was watching them the other night, maybe big Victor Wanyama, who is the Rev pointed out earlier on in the show, he went missing. It's probably one of his worst games. Another few people on Twitter who a dialogue noticed it as well. And the most important person in all this, Neil Lennon noticed it. He wasn't having a good name. He got hooked. So does Neil Lennon know something that we don't know? And many people who have pointed out, Hooper's first touch, second touch, any touch at certain times is woeful. Yes, he can finish, but he's still not the finished article. And if we can make a profit on him, then we should do. And Glasgow Celtic have always been a selling club. Kenny Dalglish will always sell our players. And what we must do is now to take our profits, buy low, sell high. Now, we have to be realistic. Are we going to get to Wembley? Is this the peak? You said earlier on, where's our trophies or what's... This is our trophy. Playing Juventus. You can't put it on a mantelpiece. You can't hold it at the end of the season. You can't parade it and say, we won this. But this is a trophy beyond all trophies that we can dream of. Yeah, the money is one thing and it's good, but the prestige and being able to say we dined at the last 16 at the Champions League when our budget is far less than what is on there, yeah, we can glorify in that. But we have to look also at the same time as why Celtic players are not playing for the jersey, why they're shortchanging the fans on repeated basis. Is it Neil Lennon's fault? Is he failing to get them up for it? Is repeated. What you can look at is that players who are playing for the other team and when they come to Hampden are taking their chances against Celtic. And Celtic, some of the players are prima donnas. Maybe they're thinking they just have to turn up and it's all there for them and they believe the hype. I don't know if they're reading the papers too much in the week before games at Hampden or whatever.
Oh, I think they do.
So something's seriously wrong at certain points at Celtic. I hate to be doom and gloom about it because we're in an unprecedented position. We're 3 divisions or whatever above the other Mankey mob. We're in the Champions League last 16. We're top of the league, and we've just lost a cup, and we should have done better. But then it's repeatedly. I'm always wanting to try and be positive and because we've got a lot to be positive. Let's be frank about it. But what we're seeing just now is if some of our players are being tapped up, and we have to accept that this is always going to be happening. But nothing special Celtic when you compare to other teams where if a player is wanted by any team in the world, then another team will be thinking they're big enough to go and take them off them. If you're Man United, Barcelona or Real Madrid will still come in and poach their players, or somebody will come in and buy it. So we can't think, these are our players and they're our players always. They're mercenaries. The modern day footballer will go with the filthy lucre, and if he's offered another 5,000-10,000 in another league that is supposed to be better, even if it's a mediocre team, his head will be turned by the extra shekels and a wee bit extra prestige that the English Premiership offers. And if that's what's happened to our players, then we've got a choice. Do we think we're going to get to Wembley as a team? Do we think the temporary custodians of our club, are they going to sell us short? Or are they more realistic than the fans? Do they think, we've got no chance of getting to Wembley and this is as good as we get? And you can't blame them, because possibly with our budget and what we've spent and what we're up against, this is probably as good as it get. Playing Juventus is maybe way above our level. But we've got a brilliant chance and a huge chance to get to the last 8, and I hope we take it. But if we sell Wanyama, if we sell Hooper, as I fear they may do, and we might as well sell them now instead of in 6 days or 5 days when that window shuts. But if we sell them just now, then what we're finding out is that the temporary custodians are saying to us, lower the bar. We're not going to get to Wembley. We never were going to get to Wembley. But I think we should hold on to them and live the dream for a wee bit longer, because if these players are hot property just now, they may well be hot property in May and June. And I just hope, I'm an idealist Celtic fan. I want us to win this like everybody else at Wembley. Have we got a chance? Sure as heck we have. But why, oh why, do we put in so many missing performances? Is it Neil Lennon's fault? Is it the players' fault? It's no the fans' fault who turned up, apart from the big game hunters who disappeared today and will turn up in Juventus. Like yourself, Graham, a big game hunter, coming over for the Juventus game. Sure. Where you bring over a Phillies top for my boy, will you? We'll talk about that off air. I'll pay you the money. Yep. Cash up for. And listen, when you come out of Glasgow, I'm your man. If you want a taxi, I'm there, mate. I'm there for you, mate. 6'2", and that's built sideways, mate. I'll offer you a fully trained, mate. I'm a full trained Poso Fleeto military style, tinted windows, tinfoil covered Skoda, mate. We'll whisk you out there. If there's any of that crazy mob for the drum want to take you out with a wooden clout, mate, I'm there, mate. I'm there. He knows how big I am, mate. I'll stand up tall for you, mate. I'll walk in front of you, don't worry.
Tommy.
But listen, bless me, everybody. Hail, hail. Sorry for talking so much rubbish.
No, but, Tommy, that's what we're here for.
Mate, and keep it faith, mate. Keep it faith.
Tommy, I'll talk to you off air. Whatever you need, I'll bring over the Philadelphia Eagles. I won't accept your money. We will be in touch, and I'll see you in a fortnight. Okay, pal? Thank you so much for calling in.
God bless, mate.
Cheers.
Keep it real, mate. All the best. Take care, mate.
Chuck Yella.
Take it easy.
I love Tommy. His name is Tommy Gold, and that is for a reason, because he is absolute radio gold. Love Tommy. Love having him on. The passion that he brings. I can't even touch it. I can't even come close to the passion that burns within that man, and he talks sense. He absolutely does. One issue I will take up that he touched on, and he talks about Juventus being our trophy, and are we going to make it to Wembley? I don't know if we're going to make it to Wembley, but I think we're going to beat Juventus. And, what we talked about a bit earlier, I think it goes into the context of today. What motivates these players? I mean, certainly the Scottish League Cup is not motivating them. That was on display today, and it was clear. I do agree with Tommy in terms of the fact that these players have had their heads turned. And Wanyama very rightly got the hook today, because he was poor. This was the worst game that I can remember seeing Wanyama play for Celtic, and that's even relative to expectations. It's a distraction. All of this, they've allowed it to be a distraction for themselves, including the Juventus game. Now, the good news about Juventus is, you know that they're going to show up for it. This is every bit the equal of the Barcelona tie, if not greater than the Barcelona tie. And the eyes of the world are going to be looking upon us. Who do people watch in the Champions League, Rev? Who do people watch? Real Madrid, Barcelona, and the Cinderella story. That's it. Everybody looks at, like, last year was that Cypriot team, Apoel, who I think we're playing against. They're
the ones that knocked out Man U?
I think Benfica knocked out Man U last year. I think Benfica knocked out Man U. But Apoel got into, I think it was penalty kicks to move on. And I want to say it wasn't Munich. I think it was an Italian team. Maybe Napoli. I think it was Napoli. Anyway, it's not even important. That's who people pay attention to. A couple of years ago, I think it was Basel made it through, or Bate Borisov, or those are the teams people look out for that, and they look out for whoever their team is between Barcelona and Real Madrid and maybe Man U, and then the losers look at Chelsea. So
who weren't even in it.
We are going to have the eyes of the world upon Celtic for both legs of that tie, and especially the first leg, especially on the heels of the display that the Green Brigade so just amazingly, magically put up in that Barcelona game. Everybody wants to see a European night at Celtic after that. That set the bar so high. These players know it. They know it. And it means more than any medal that they'll ever win, probably. Maybe. Most medals. It's up there. They know that everybody's going to look at it. They know that 10 years from now, when you see the greatest games of all time play, they always replay that Liverpool Arsenal game from the Millennium Stadium, the FA Cup final. They always play the old Classicos, or the old clips of Sachi's team. 10 years from now, they are going to be playing that Celtic Barcelona game. So those players who were on the pitch that night, yes, including Miko, are they're the bronzed. That was history. They know it. They have another opportunity for history against Juventus. They know it. And I think that they're looking to grasp it with both hands. I really do. You're not going to see a performance like today against Juventus. No way, no how, no chance. So that's why, it's a big reason why I firmly believe we're going to get past Juventus. Yeah, we're going to have, Juventus on paper are superior, and they have the referees on their side, and they're cheating pricks. Major Platini is going to end the podcast abruptly, and then Deco can call him Hugh Keevans. Oh, I kid Deco. But we are going to beat Juventus. We are. I'm telling you, right now, we are going to beat Juventus. We're going to get through, and we are either going to play against Galatasaray or who was the other crap team? Was it Schalke that they're playing against?
I don't even know.
I think it was
been a while.
Schalke. So we're either going to go to Turkey or we're going to play against the Schwanzenstokers.
Schwanzen turkeys.
But listen, this is it's a blip on the radar. This is very unlike me, Rev.
What is?
Trying to inject some levity.
Trying to be positive?
Yeah, levity and perspective and everything. Getting old.
Yeah, I guess we switched. I was the angry one.
No, you're
this week. And
prepare for hate mail, my friend. It's coming. We had some reviews on iTunes this week from. I wish I had a copy of it. You know what? I'm unprepared. I should have had a copy of that. But anyway, somebody left a review for us on iTunes saying, I used to like the Beyond the Waves show until they started using sectarian terms. And they started referring to Huns and something else. And it was like...
Hey, to be fair, we've been using Huns since day one. So.
It was probably some dirty, stinking Hun who couldn't stand the smell of himself. So, as Yampy would say, kiss my ass. Speaking of, where the hell's Yampy?
Good question.
I don't know. I might have been too soon to make him audio fanfare. I think it's gone to his head a little bit. Yampy. I think Yampy's too good for us now.
He's like listening in with like his kids in the background. I was like, "You motherfuckers!"
I kid, Yampy. I also I want to give a shout out to the hardest working man in the Celtic online community. That's Big G from the Celtic Dream Show. Big G has done 18 hours of broadcasting on Spreaker this weekend. I mean, think about that. 18 hours. He did 9 hours yesterday in the run up to the Danny O'Connor fight last night. Rev, did you see it?
No, I was.
Oh, you're such a dick.
In poker night.
Whatever poker. You're such a dick.
The plan was I was going to a friend's house, we'll play some poker, and since it was streaming online, just pop it up on the computer, put it on the TV, and I got about 5 Angry Orchards in, and I completely forgot.
5 Angry Orchards. 4 aces.
Now you're a dick.
All right, so you were doing poker night while I was supporting the Fenian Fists of Danny O'Connor, and it was great. You know, Big G getting the tunes going in the lead up to the fight, and obviously the fight was a thing of beauty. You can find Big G's show Celtic Dreams right here on Spreaker. And it's great stuff. It's good crack, and I think we've. Hey, turn down your speakers, caller.
Oh, I did. You there?
I think we've awoken the giant, if you will. Hang on a second. I wasn't prepared. Audio fanfare. Yampy is from South Jersey. He stands about 7'1". He is just a gentle giant, that is, unless you're a pun. He calls the show up every week. You know him if you heard him speak. Yampy! Oh yeah, Yampy, Yampy's got a filthy mouth. Yampy! Oh yeah, Yampy calls it every week.
We're in the 16th, you're out. Say goodnight, princess. You're fucking
Joining us now live from the friendly confines of South Jersey, it is Yampy. Hello, Yampy. Thanks for joining us.
What's going on, fellas?
Not too much, pal. Well, I guess you heard the clarion call, the bat signal.
Yeah, I did. I was being bad-mouthed, and that's all right. Even in South Jersey, I can find out what's going on. You guys treat me like a prick. That's okay.
Your reach it extends wide away from the hub there. I don't know what I'm saying. Yampy, you took a leave of absence there. I was worried about you. I was concerned. Maybe you ran off and sort of following another Celtic podcast.
Right. Nah, I actually just passed out after the game today, so it's like I kind of caught you guys about halfway through.
That's okay. Rev passed out during the game, so you're one ahead.
At least I saw the fucking game, right?
Yampy, you talked a lot of sense after the game. I think you had a lot of perspective and some levity there. Tell us what your takeaways were from the game. It obviously wasn't a great performance, but in the wider picture, you can point to a lot of things. Neil Lennon has a track record of improving on mistakes like this, and if it means that we're going to have a long and fruitful run this season in the Cup, in the Scottish Cup, then is this a worthwhile sacrifice?
First of all, I got to tell you, I'm a little bit full of shit, too. I'm as upset as anybody about the damn thing, so I'm telling everybody else to chill the fuck out. I'm full of crap because I'm upset. I'm pissed, and maybe I just get a little tired of hearing everybody fucking whining about it, too, because then it just gets me more agitated, and then, what are you going to do? You're on Twitter. You can't just go freaking out and screaming at a keyboard.
As much as you try.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I wasn't happy with a lot of things. I tried to rationalize it and say, look, man, they didn't show up for almost 45 minutes, dude. I mean, there's people you don't want to slam, the manager and everything, but they weren't prepared.
No.
And when a club's not prepared, that falls directly on the manager. I mean, all these mediocre performances
We had the one tie against Arbroath and everything, and you have to have your club prepared. These are teams you should beat. St. Mirren's a joke. I mean, they're a joke.
They weren't a joke today.
I mean, no, they weren't. That dude Goncalves or whatever his name was.
Yeah.
Holy shit, he looked like Pele out there. He's just running back and forth up and down the fucking field. He's dribbling around people like everybody's a bunch of fucking traffic cones.
Kelvin Wilson cannot contain Pele. Fucking Pele.
He was a little bit lost in space, especially on the goal. I mean, it's like, I know when Yama stepped up to challenge and then Wilson was kind of stuck between two guys and everything, but you can't let people open in front of the net. And it's not just Wilson. It's all the guys. It's everybody. It's the manager's fault. It's Wilson's fault. It's Wanyama's fault. Fucking Charlie McGrew. I mean, Jesus Christ. Are you kidding me? Hit the fucking ball, dude. Please. For the love of God, kick the fucking ball. That's how you made your profession. You kick the goddamn ball. He's turning fucking goalkeepers into like Peter Shilton and stuff. Like, just kick the ball. Kick the goddamn thing. And then, not only does that, he's down in the box inside the 18, and it's like, he has like a shit attack. It's like the ball comes up in his face like a fucking 8-year-old playing dodgeball. He just throws his hands up in his face like, oh my God! Like it's going to hurt him or something. So not only does he fucking butcher it on the one end, he kills him on the other end. But hey, who gives a fuck? Because at least he scored with 2 seconds to spare in a 3-1 game.
That's true.
I mean, I try to be rational about it, because people get nuts. They're like calling for the manager to be sacked, and you're saying like, oh, Samaras blows. 97% of the time he sucks. The other 3 he's flopping. I'm like, really, fucktard.
Hey, people call me Hugh Keevans.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, seriously, because I'm not sure. If it wasn't for Samaras, you wouldn't have a Champions League fucking game to go to. Okay,
truth.
He got the penalty against Spartak. So, at least if you're going to be pissed and know what the fuck you're talking about. I don't mind fucking criticism. Just don't be a fucking moron. Okay? I mean, people sit there and they piss and moan about the dumbest shit. It's like the whole club sucked today. They sucked. They didn't show up. It was a waste of fucking time. It was a waste to watch it. It was a waste to go to it. It was a waste of a fucking day. Waste of a day. And the manager should have had him prepared. You could go right down the lineup and pick a guy out and throw a dart and find that somebody fucked up somehow today. Somebody did, except maybe Bruni, who played a pretty good game. But other than that, I mean, really, they from one end of the lineup to the other sucked. And so I don't know. I tried to be like logical about it and everything and tell people to just chill, man. It happens. It happens. But holy shit, against St. Mirren, I don't know.
Yuppie, you seem like you're up for it. So let's take it to another hot button issue today, the lightning rod of the times, and that's the transfer window. Gary Hooper, Victor Wanyama, everybody is in full panic mode. The sky is falling. Both of them are leaving, and they're never coming back. What are your thoughts?
Look, man, I don't know. I think the club is 1,000 times better with Hooper, and I think it's 1,000 times better with Wanyama than without. Teams survive transfer windows. I mean, they that's why you have depth. That's why you have academies. That's why you have younger players to fill gaps and stuff.
And we do have younger players.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I think if you made me make a choice between the two, I'd definitely rather see Hooper go than Wanyama. I think that we have strikers. I mean, it's like, I know we have strikers, and Tony Watt, if he could ever get a fucking chance in a 4-3-3 lineup, instead of Lasad. I think I'd rather see Hooper go. I don't want to see either one of them go. I'm selfish.
Neither one of them are leaving. So be of good cheer.
I don't think going to the Prem is going to benefit them. I think that, especially Hooper, I think you made a wonderful point about, you can't have off days and off weeks playing in the Prem because you won't be playing for long.
Exactly. And the people who want to say that Hooper would stroll right into that Spurs tide, I'm sorry, you're wrong.
No, it's not going to happen. Nah, even those Spurs didn't exactly light the world on fire today. No, he wouldn't exactly step right into that squad, and it's not being realistic if you think otherwise. I like Hooper. He scores goals. I mean, when he gets service anyway, and he's motivated, the dude's game is as on as anybody's. You saw what he did against Dundee United. That was at 2 goals. He was backtracking. He did everything you could ask of a guy. But today, he kind of went into that mode that we remember a little bit from New Camp, when he kind of like just fucking went into like seaweed mode and drifted about a little bit. And I mean, that goal was gorgeous at the half, but other than that, did he really dictate the play? No. And
I think he absolutely nailed it. I think Charlie McGrew had an awful day. 2 crucial key errors there, but great teams, when one player is having an off day, another player steps up, and nobody stepped up, and we saw the result.
Can somebody tell me what the fuck is wrong with Fraser Forster? Because is he just resting him? Is he hurt?
He's got a bad neck. Because
I'm not for nothing, man. I know the dude's a backup, and you get what you get with a backup, but I look at Zaluch in the lineup, and I'm just like, here we go. That third goal hit like his fingertips, and he's 6'4". Forster's 6'7". That hits him in the palm of his hand, and we're talking about a 2-2 game.
Is that still from his sleeping weird neck?
Yeah.
Injury?
Well, here's what happened. They sent him. It happened, and it's no joke, Yampy. This is the story. He slept on it wrong before last weekend's game. Wasn't available, obviously. They sent him for a scan. The scan came back negative. He was still feeling a little bit this week, and in abundance of caution, they told him they just gave him the week off. He wasn't going to play on Tuesday. If it didn't feel better by Thursday, they weren't going to train him. They were going to give him the following weekend off because it didn't make sense to have him train if he wasn't going to be ready for the game anyway. Apparently, he's going to start training tomorrow, and he should be good, from here on. These are words from Neil Lennon, but it's an abundance of caution looking ahead to the Champions League. So I can get with that.
Yeah, I mean, and that's fine and dandy, but you know what's going to happen. I mean, I look at Zalushka there, and he's jumping around in the net. Ball goes over the crossbar. He's like doing fucking pull-ups on the thing and everything. And it's like, dude, just settle down and chill the fuck out. Make sure you're positioned well as a keeper. Do what you're supposed to. Forster, you look at the guy. He's just a fucking beast. And it's like, I see him and I'm like, I feel comfortable, man. I look at Zalushka. I don't feel comfortable. Not at all. He just doesn't, he fucking handles the ball like it's a grenade being thrown at him or something. It's like he's punching shit away. He's knocking the ball. Just catch the goddamn ball. Catch the fucking ball. If they're crossing it in, it's a corner kick. Catch the goddamn ball. You're the keeper. You have fucking big gloves. Catch it. Catch it. Stop giving up rebounds all over the 18 and everything. Just catch the ball. And he doesn't. And the ball's all over the place, and he's jumping around. He's diving around. Dude makes me nervous. And I saw him in there today, and I was like, this could be a little bit of trouble, especially with that Duke and Calvis, the second coming of Pele. And we can shut down Messi almost, but apparently we can't shut down Goncalves from St. Mirren. And they pumped 3 past him. I mean, Zalushka is just a body. That's all he is. He's a backup keeper. He's a body. And Foster needs to get back.
I agree. It's like comparing Brodeur and Vizgala.
God. Yeah.
Here we go.
Yeah.
It's got to be a cock.
Yeah, exactly. He's banned. All right, Yamp. Thanks for calling in, man. Onwards and upwards. We could put this behind us, and like Rev said before, it's the Diddy Cup, and that sucks. But we have so much left to play for, and if this is the kick up the ass that this team needed, and I firmly believe that it did. Yes, we've had lackluster performances in the past, in the league and elsewhere, but they didn't have the repercussions that this is going to have. And I don't think Neil Lennon is going to let them forget about it. This is going to be the clarion call from here out. So,
well, as his job as the manager, he has to do that. Yeah. I mean, he has to take something from this fucking stinking pile of crap and make the club better from it. I mean, and that would be the obvious thing to do. Use it as a motivating tool. See what happens if you're not prepared. Anybody can beat you. And yeah, I feel good about against our chances against Juventus. Would I rather take this cup match, a win, and lose that. Nah, fuck that. I mean, I'd rather take a message from a loss against St. Mirren in the semifinal and use that as a motivating tool to possibly get the result that we all really want, a win against, Juventus.
Yep.
I'll make that trade any day of the week.
Absolutely. And you know what? After we do, not if, but when, after we do beat Juventus, nobody's going to remember the League Cup. I promise you. No one will remember this day. Just like when we did the show after the Hibs game where we got beat 2-0. I said 2 weeks from now or 2 months from now, after we beat Juventus, nobody is going to remember the day we lost to Hibs.
Not at all. Not at all. And if those people have to go into work tomorrow and takes a little stick from a fucking Hun about this result today, fuck them. In the greater scheme of things, fuck them. Look at where they're at and look at where we're at, dude. Champions League, 16, fuck them. They can kiss my ass. Every one of those fucking Huns. Just tell them, fuck you, give them the fucking finger and say, go about your fucking business, you fat fuck. Other than that, have a nice day.
Yampy, thanks so much for getting in touch, pal. It's good to hear from you. I was nervous, but you've calmed my nerves. You're back, and it's always great to hear from you. We'll talk to you soon.
Good to hear from you, G. Rev, take it easy on them Flyers comparisons, bro. Your Devils going down,
exactly. Say it.
Top of the Atlantic Division.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
What's 5 games in?
5 games in, yeah.
Keep dreaming. Just like the Red Bulls. Keep dreaming.
Thanks, Yappy. Hail.
Thank you, fellas.
See you, man.
See ya.
All right, good. So we got some Yappy in. People saying that I don't let callers talk. Shame on you. All right. That's it. We're done. Rev, thank you. Wednesday against Kilmarnock, so we'll have that to look forward to.
Yay.
And we'll give him a doing, mate.
I hope so.
Nah. They'll sort it out. It's fine. It's all good. It's all good.
Is that home or away?
I believe it's away.
Okay.
Hang on. I got my trusty iCalendar. It's it's at home.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, 2:30 our time, 7:30 their time. So we'll look forward to that. I expect a very a much improved performance. I'm sure Neil Lennon's going to have them at training at 6 a.m. tomorrow, running their asses off, and let this be the clarion call for the rest of the year. Let this be the motivator to not let this happen again. We've had this happen before, and we should have used that as motivation in the past. But I think the familiar theme throughout, from everybody except Paul in the chat room, but he's a fanny. We have faith in Neil Lennon, and this isn't this isn't the first bump in the road that we've hit, and it might not be the last, but he internalizes this and he doesn't let it happen on a continuous basis. You could talk about the Hamden performances last year. I think it was a bit of a different context. So anyway, I have faith, and you should too.
I do.
You're just trying to get out of getting hate mail.
No, I believe me. I've got the utmost faith and confidence in Neil Lennon and the team.
If you'd like to send hate mail to Rev, it's at RevBoy BHOYNJ, like New Jersey. So let him have it.
Hey, I'll take it. But no, in all seriousness, I have the confidence in everyone. In the organization, players, managers, staff. It's just today, for whatever reason, they didn't show up. And, I kind of chewed out Charlie Mulgrew a little bit, but I know, he'll turn it around. He's one of my favorite players on the team right now.
He's a big dude, man. He's huge. He'd freaking destroy you.
Oh, yeah.
He'd destroy me, too. He's huge. He looks like an NFL tight end. Or like a linebacker. I mean, he's walking out of the elevator. It's like, holy shit!
Is he that big?
Oh, he's huge.
I know he's tall, but is he?
Oh no, he's built like a linebacker.
Oh shit!
He was standing next to Seamus. Seamus is 6'3", and he was just like, fee fi fo fum. I'm like, damn. I was like, oh hi Charlie, I'm Mickey Mouse. And then Thomas Ronya is his legs are skinnier than my wrists. He is like Big Bird. Okay, so nice how we fed off each other there. All right, Rev, that's 2.5 hours. I think it was a good shift. I feel good about today. Feel good.
Yeah, I feel better, than I did going in. I honestly didn't even want to do it. I just wanted to rant and then say fuck it, drop the mic and walk away.
Yeah, Kanye. No, I feel, we still have a lot to look forward to. This is easily explained. I have faith in I have faith in the line. I have faith in these players. They've stepped up before. They'll step up again. And that's that. It's still a great time to be a Celtics supporter. And that's all there needs to be said. So
no argument for me.
Thank you for tuning in. Thank you so much to all of our callers getting in touch. I think we had some great topics today, great calls, and so we appreciate that. I think it was a good show. I think it was our best show in a little while. Rev not impressed.
No, I nodded my head.
That's
radio nod.
That's great. That's great radio. All right, Rev. Listen, behave yourself. Thank you for joining.
About it.
All right. And thank you to everyone who tuned in today. We're so glad that you joined us, as you always do. We also managed not to eat ourselves. It's words around that the channel is eating itself. I'm not hungry. Are you hungry, Rev?
Wait, what?
Never mind.
Is that some slang for something that I'm not getting?
I'll catch up later. Yeah. Anyway, Hail Media, not going anywhere, so get used to it. And for the Rev, I'm Graham Wilson. Taking us out as always is Shane McGowan and the Pogues. Please get in touch also at BTW Celtics Show and give me suggestions for first-time visitors. Yeah, hate mail. First-time visitors to Glasgow, too. I need help. We'll talk to you soon.
The island, it is silent now, but the ghosts still haunt the waves. And a torch lights up a famished man who fortune could not save. Did you work upon the railroads? Did you ride the streets of crime? Were your dollars from the White House? Were they from the 5 and dime? Did the old songs start to cheer you? And did they still make you cry? Did you count the months and years? Or did your teardrops quickly dry? I know that it was not to be on a coffin ship. I came here and I never even got so far that they could change my name. Thousands are sailing across the western ocean to a land of opportunity that some of them will never see. Fortune prevailing across the western ocean, their bellies full, their spirits free. They'll break the chains of poverty and they'll dance. In Manhattan's desert twilight, in the dead of afternoon, we stepped hand in hand on Broadway, like the first man on the moon. And a blackbird broke the silence as you whistled, it's so sweet. And in Brendan Behan's footsteps, I danced up and down the street. And we said goodnight to Broadway, giving it our best regards. Took our hats to Mr. Cohen dear old Times Square's favourite bird. Then we raised a glass to JFK and a dozen more besides. When I got back to my empty room, I suppose I must have cried. Thousands are sailing again across the ocean with a hand of opportunity. Trust tickets